My roommate, brainwashed by her unwashed boyfriend who hasn't bathed in years, insisted on coexisting peacefully with the dorm's fungus. During the humid rainy season, she would deliberately open the windows to let the damp air pour in. When the sun came out to dry the musty smell, she would keep the doors and windows tightly shut. In my previous life, I kindly advised her that if she kept this up, the whole dorm would grow mold and we'd end up sick, but she just sneered and mocked me. Filth won't hurt you, get it? It's because you're so obsessed with cleanliness that you're so fragile and get sick easily. My boyfriend never gets sick, woken up by the stench time and again in the middle of the night. I finally had enough. I shut the windows, turned on the dehumidifier, and forced her to at least wash up a bit. She turned around and tearfully posted online, accusing me of bullying and splashing water on her. I was warned by the school, labeled a bully, and pointed at wherever I went. On the day I was forced to move out of the dorm, she took advantage of my distraction, pushed me off the high-rise building, and staged it to look like I jumped out of guilt. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when the humid rainy season swept in. The dampness, mixed with a sour, musty smell, crept into my nose and throat, making it suffocatingly stuffy. My eyes snapped open, the damp bedding, the walls streaming with water, the cold, wet wind blowing in through the window. All so familiar that my heart suddenly clenched. This humid, bone-chilling day of the rainy season was also the beginning of my tragedy in the previous life. On the bed diagonally across from me, Xian was curled up under the quilt, scrolling through her phone with an infatuated smile. In a flash, her twisted, snarling face as she pushed me down the stairs flashed through my mind, along with those piercing curses. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, a phone would never have broken up with me. You're just too pretentious and obsessed with cleanliness. No wonder you're weak and always sick. Why does that bullying bitch look down on me? The barrage of hateful posts on the campus forum, the whispers of passers-by, the school suspension notice, scene after scene surged before my eyes. My fingers unconsciously clenched, digging in 4 deep crescent-shaped indentations. In this life, I refuse to be the fool who stands out. I stood up, the chair legs scraped against the damp floor tiles, letting out a piercing screech. Xian, under her covers, immediately looked up and fixed me with a wary stare, her tone exactly as in the previous life. What are you doing? In the previous life, I had gone straight to close the window and reduce the humidity. She instantly jumped down, unplugged the device, and argued while opening the window, trotting out her boyfriend's twisted theory about gut bacteria boosting immunity, accusing me sentence by sentence of deliberately harming her. In this life, I still walked toward the balcony. My footsteps made a sticky, squelching sound on the wet tiles. I could feel her gaze, like the damp mold in the corner of the wall, clinging tenaciously to my back, probing and waiting. She was waiting for me to close the window, poised to jump up with righteous indignation and defend the symbiotic truth that she and a phone both believed in. But I walked to the balcony door, bent down to put on my sneakers, and headed straight for the dormitory exit. Passing by Hu Xiao and Chen Jin's desks, both were covering their noses, their eyes pleading, secretly hoping I would step in to take charge. I calmly looked away, a chill settling deep in my heart. In my past life, I was always the one speaking up to argue, while they shrank into the background as if invisible. They endured the musty smell without a word, just waiting for me to play the villain. The coldest part was that when I was falsely accused of bullying, they stayed completely silent, their silence sealing my guilt. Please return YAML results directly in the following format. After I died, they fabricated false testimony in front of the police to secure postgraduate recommendations, claiming I fell accidentally out of guilt. In this life, I'll watch coldly from the sidelines. You 3 can take your time wasting away with the fungus. 2. I didn't stop walking. Just as I reached the door, Hu Xiao couldn't help but ask, "Dorm leader, where are you going?" Chen Jin quickly glanced at Xian, who was immersed in her phone, and whispered, "The hygiene inspection is coming up soon. Point deductions will affect our end-of-term evaluation." Deliberately calling me dorm leader was nothing but an attempt to morally blackmail me, forcing me to take the fall for everyone. No one wanted to handle dorm chores at the start of the semester, so they unanimously nominated me as dorm leader. Back then, I genuinely cared about the dorm. Now, looking back, I only find it laughable. The floor is pretty clean, just give it a quick mop yourselves. That should be enough, I said casually, brushing them off. Chen Jin awkwardly fanned the air in front of her nose and said hesitantly, "But the smell is too strong," pretending not to understand her implication. I turned to Hu Xiao and asked, "What were you asking me just now?" "Huh, where are you going? My nose is too stuffy, I'm going to see a doctor." With those words, I pushed the door open and walked straight out, ignoring the shocked and anxious looks on their faces. Seeing the doctor was a lie. The real purpose was to find the counselor and apply for a dorm change. 3. I crouched outside the counselor's office, deliberately waiting until more people were around before going in. People kept streaming in and out of the office, some submitting forms, some asking questions, some requesting time off. I counted the heads, and once there were a dozen or so people inside, I stood up and pushed the door open. "Mr. Wang, Lin Mei from accounting. Class 1131, Dorm 1012, requesting a dorm change." Her voice was not loud, but clear enough for everyone in the room to hear. Mr. Wang looked up with a frown and spoke impatiently. "Change dorms, dorm assignments are fixed, no changes without special circumstances." The surrounding students cast curious glances her way. "I do have special circumstances. Li Xian in dorm 1012 is extremely careless about personal hygiene. She hasn't bathed for a whole week. During the humid rainy season, she insists on keeping the windows open, letting in moisture, and refuses to use the dehumidifier. Living for so long in a moldy, damp environment has become unbearable for me and is seriously affecting my studies and daily life." As she finished, murmurs of discussion rippled through the office, and many people pulled faces of disgust. Some others disagreed, thinking I was just trying to stir up trouble. Teacher Wang was one of them. She suddenly slammed her hand on the desk, her face dark and stern. "Lin Mei, I think you're not putting your mind to your studies, just picking on trivial little things. If you have that much time, why not focus on your schoolwork instead of gossiping behind your roommates' backs? The other students in the dorm don't have a problem, you're the one who's overly sensitive and narrow-minded. Stop forcing your own standards on others." My grades were the worst in the dorm, and I was never close to the counselor to begin with. I had expected her to play favorites and gloss things over, but I hadn't expected her to pin blame on me without knowing the facts. "Teacher Wang, I'm not gossiping. I came to report a problem and request a dorm change. Are you really dismissing me without any investigation? You won't even call Li Xian over to ask a single question. Are you trying to cover for her while she cultivates fungi in the dorm?" After saying that, I took out my phone from my pocket and opened the recording app right in front of Teacher Wang. "Teacher Wang, do you support Li Xian cultivating fungi in the dorm? Are you willing to treat my health as her experiment?" "What are you doing?" Teacher Wang's expression instantly darkened. "Just keeping some evidence," I said calmly. "School rules are meant to discipline students, but they should also ensure students' basic health and safety." "You," Teacher Wang glanced at the other teachers who were now paying attention, then waved his hand impatiently. "Go back for now. I'll look into this. If you're making a big deal out of nothing, I'll give you a demerit." I was unmoved by Teacher Wang's threat. In my previous life, I hadn't tried to make a big deal out of it, so I never knew Teacher Wang's attitude. But after this conversation, I knew Teacher Wang wouldn't verify anything, and even if he did, my two roommates would stay silent. Li Xian wouldn't admit to being unhygienic either, and in the end, I still wouldn't be able to change dorm rooms. "Teacher Wang, I hope you will verify this carefully. When you walk into our dormitory and smell that pungent musty odor, I expect you to handle it with the same level of fairness. Until you have confirmed the facts, I am applying to live off campus." Without a second thought, Teacher Wang refused. "No, first-year students must live on campus. That is the rule." I did not put away my phone. The recording screen was still on, but my voice grew eerily calm, and I enunciated each word clearly. "Rules exist to ensure students' basic safety and health, not to chain students to dangerous environments under the guise of health risks." From the inner pocket of my coat, I took out a folded piece of paper, unfolded it, and gently placed it on her desk, next to the photocopy of the medical record. It was a doctor's recommendation letter that I had my mother obtain at the hospital on my way here, issued on the grounds of suspected severe mold allergy with breathing difficulties. On it was clearly written, "It is recommended that the patient be immediately removed from the current damp, moldy environment to prevent the onset of allergic asthma or fungal respiratory infection." The doctor's signature and the bright red outpatient stamp were like a silent verdict. "Mr. Wang, this is the certificate from the campus clinic. My health is deteriorating due to the dormitory environment. School rules require me to live on campus. but the school has an even greater responsibility to ensure that students do not suffer clear health damage from dormitory conditions. I paused, glanced at all the eavesdropping people in the office, then fixed my gaze back on Mr. Wang's face, which was alternating between pale and flushed. I spoke not loudly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. If, after I have clearly reported the issue and provided medical proof, the school still uses regulations as a reason to force me to continue living in an environment with a clear health risk that has already prompted medical intervention, then if I suffer any serious health problems as a result, I leaned in slightly and spoke clearly, at a volume audible only to the two of us but sufficient for any recording device to capture. Are you and the school administration prepared to bear the responsibility for administrative negligence for all the serious consequences that this decision may cause? You, go back for now. Her voice had lost its earlier sternness, and even sounded a bit weak. I'll come over to investigate soon. I'll give you an answer today for sure. For it was 6 in the evening when I returned to the dormitory. The dormitory was completely empty, and the window remained open. A fine rain was falling outside, constantly drifting in with the cold wind, making the musty smell in the dormitory even stronger. I opened the closet. The dehumidifier inside was already full of water, touching my clothes and cup. I even felt a bit of dampness, which only strengthened my resolve to move out of the dorm. I had no desire to have any further contact with a fungus brain in love. Dorm leader, you're finally back. Ugh, I just came back from eating out. The cafeteria was way too crowded, and I wanted to get takeout, but, ugh, so annoying. Hu Xiao saw me in the dorm and started hinting at me again. Ever since Li Xian said she wanted to live in symbiosis with fungi, none of us dared to bring takeout back to the dorm. Before, when there were no classes, I could still order takeout, but now I have no choice but to eat in the crowded cafeteria. After all, no one can eat in this dormitory environment, which is full of mildew. Even Li Xian eats out. That's good. The food in the cafeteria is hot. Chen Jin and Hu Xiao hadn't expected my answer to be like that, so they exchanged a glance. Dorm leader, if this keeps up, our entire dorm is going to get moldy. Seeing me silently organizing my wardrobe, Chen Jin finally couldn't hold back anymore, her voice carrying a hint of tears and urgency. Look at this wall. Look at this blanket. We really can't take it anymore. If you can't take it, go talk to the ones who caused this. I'm not the one who did this, so it's useless to talk to me. You're the dorm leader. This is supposed to be your responsibility. Seeing my indifference, Chen Jin couldn't help but complain in a low voice, her tone carrying a natural sense of deflection. My hands didn't stop folding the clothes. As my fingertips touched the damp, sticky fabric, my eyes remained cold, and I replied flatly, starting today, I'm no longer the dorm leader. I'll move out tonight. The words hit them like a stone thrown into still water. Hu Xiao's eyes widened, and she quickly stepped forward. Move out? Why so sudden? Did the advisor approve? Aren't freshmen not allowed to live off campus? Right, not allowed, but getting written up is better than getting sick. My tone was even, without a trace of emotion, completely brushing off their concerns. There was no need to tell them that I'd already spoken to the advisor, obtained a medical certificate, and even recorded the conversation. I just wanted to watch coldly. Watch how these two, who only wanted to slack off and rely on me to clean up after them, would scheme next. But Hu Xiao and I are planning to take the postgraduate entrance exam. We can't afford a disciplinary record. Chen Jin turned pale with anxiety, quickly using her future as a reason. Yeah, renting a place outside is so expensive every month. Hu Xiao chimed in, panic-stricken. It'd be better to just persuade Li Xian to do the cleaning properly. That would save money and avoid a record. What about your own grad school plans later? I stopped what I was packing and lifted my gaze to look at them indifferently, my eyes as cold as the beads of condensation trickling down the walls during the rainy season. Persuade her. You both have your own mouths. Why don't you go persuade her? Word by word, I spoke bluntly and bitingly. Opening the windows at the start of the rainy season to grow mold was Li Xian's own choice, believing in coexisting with fungi and that skipping baths builds stronger immunity. Those are also twisted ideas she was brainwashed into by her boyfriend. You're afraid of offending her, afraid of conflict, afraid of hurting your grad school exam prep, so you hang back and stay silent. While putting up with the smell and dampness, you refuse to be the bad guys. Instead, you swarm around me every day, using my position as dorm leader to pressure me into being the one who picks the fight, gets resented, and gets slandered. Chen Jin's cheeks flushed as she quietly protested. It's not that we dare not, Li Xian has such a temper, the moment you say something, she explodes and starts making snide remarks. I don't dare either, I'm also afraid of her sarcasm. If you want a clean dorm, go talk to Li Xian yourselves. Just as the words left my mouth, the dorm door creaked open, a coquettish yet somewhat aggressive voice suddenly rang out. What do you want to talk to me about? Hu Xiao and Chen Jin stiffened all over, instinctively shutting their mouths and averting their gazes, not daring to breathe loudly, instantly reverting to their usual timid and fearful selves. Li Xian swept her eyes over the three of us, finally fixing them on me with a scrutinizing and hostile look, raising an eyebrow as she asked, I heard everything by the door. What were you muttering about behind my back? You said you wanted to talk to me about something. Chen Jin waved her hands frantically in panic, forcing a smile, and no, nothing. We were just casually saying the dorm is too damp. What does damp matter? Li Xian scoffed, walking straight to her own bed and flopping down, confidently spouting her usual twisted logic. My A Feng said you have to open the windows during the rainy season to let in moisture and natural microbes. It boosts your immunity. You're just too finicky and obsessed with cleanliness. That's why you catch colds so easily. She glanced at the luggage piled beside my bed, then sat up abruptly, her face full of shock. You're moving out. How can you move out? Why can't I move out? I didn't stop tidying up my clothes. With a cold expression, I looked up calmly at her. Li Xian immediately frowned and began to morally blackmail me with utter confidence. We're living in the same dorm for 4 years. How can you just move out like that? It's just a bit of dampness and a little smell. Why make such a big deal out of it? I think you're just too obsessed with cleanliness. By packing up and leaving, are you trying to tell everyone that we're excluding you? Are you deliberately trying to ruin our reputation so we can't take the postgraduate entrance exam? She deliberately made it sound harsh, just to provoke Hu Xiao and Chen Jin into agreeing with her, forcing me to stay. I looked at Li Xian with confusion, unable to shake off a strange feeling. Before I could think it through, Hu Xiao and Chen Jin began to chime in with Li Xian. Right, Lin Mei, if you move out of the dorm, are you trying to make people say the three of us are ostracizing you? Right, dorm head, don't go. Li Xian looked at me and sneered. Some people just aren't good at studying, knowing they have no hope for grad school. They still want to drag others down with them. After hearing Li Xian's words, Hu Xiao and Chen Jin's looks toward me changed. Me moving out of the dorm, me getting a demerit, me not being able to take the grad school exam. What does any of that have to do with you? I stared at Li Xian, my voice low but every word crystal clear. How is it not about us? You just want to spread rumors that we're ostracizing you, and then drag us down with you. Li Xian argued irrationally, her chin slightly raised, wearing an expression that said, I've already seen through your scheme. Hu Xiao and Chen Jin nodded vigorously beside her. Don't project your own character onto others. I'm not one to spread rumors. I stared at Li Xian and said coldly, in the previous life, she was the one who spread rumors about me, yet in this life, she's worried about others spreading rumors about her. How ridiculous. Who's spreading rumors about you? What nonsense are you talking? You're just not allowed to move. Li Xian's voice suddenly rose. I caught a flicker of guilt in Li Xian's eyes, and that strange feeling inside me returned. Why would Li Xian feel guilty, unless I had hit the mark? But in this life, I haven't stopped her from pursuing true love or cultivating fungi. Why would she spread rumors about me? I thought about it for a long time but couldn't figure it out. In this life, I haven't provoked her. I didn't waste any more words on her. Continue packing. Li Xian was still saying something behind me, her voice buzzing like a fly. I chose to tune her out. Seeing that I wasn't responding, she raised her voice a few notches. Lin Mei, I'm talking to you. What kind of attitude is that? I still ignored her. Lin Mei, are you listening? I won't let you leave. I put my luggage aside, sat down in my chair, and waited for a message from the advisor. The other three, seeing that I had stopped packing and thinking I had been persuaded, went back to their own business. Li Xian took out a spray bottle and sprayed it in the already damp room. Hu Xiao and Chen Jin were angry at Li Xian's actions but dared not say a word. They looked at me and saw that I was spacing out. Dorm leader, the hygiene inspection is tomorrow. Chen Jin began hinting at me again. I kept spacing out and ignored them. Li Xian sprayed even more fiercely, even aiming a few spritzes at my luggage. Just as I was about to lose my temper, I Caught a flash of provocation in Li Xian's eyes, and the longing in Hu Zhao's and Chen Jin's eyes. It was as if all three were hoping I would start a fight. My clenched fists slowly relaxed. Li Xian is not herself, she's forcing me to stay in the dorm, forcing me to stop her. 5. I ignored Li Xian's provocation and tried to figure out what she was trying to achieve. In my previous life, after I died, the three of them got graduate school recommendations. Could it be for grad school admission? But with Li Xian's grades, acing the grad school entrance exam would be a breeze. There's no need for her to do something so bizarre. I'm also quite sure I've never done anything to offend Li Xian. Looking at Li Xian, who was happily chatting with her boyfriend on her phone again. Could it be that I've offended him instead? Did her boyfriend send Li Xian to mess with me? Li Xian has never mentioned her boyfriend's name or any information about him, only revealing that he is very masculine. In fact, he doesn't bathe for a whole year. His health is extraordinary. All of his dorm mates have fallen seriously ill, but he remains fine, even filthier than fungus itself. Only at the very end did I find out her boyfriend's name was a phone. The rest of the information is minimal. Last time Hu Zhao showed curiosity about Li Xian's boyfriend, Li Xian suspected she wanted to steal him. That was the day we started to realize Li Xian was completely lovesick, a man that dirty. No normal person would want to get close to him. 6. I stopped engaging with them and quietly waited for the advisor's response. At 10 p.m., the advisor finally publicly tagged me in the class group chat. At Lin Mei, regarding the dormitory hygiene issue you reported today, I have looked into the situation. According to my findings, the overall cleanliness of dorm 1012 meets the school's basic requirements, and there is no serious health hazard, as you claimed. It is normal for roommates to have different living habits, and you need to learn to be tolerant and adaptable. Don't impose your personal hygiene standards on others, nor interfere with their private lives. Focus on your studies instead of splitting hairs over dorm issues. Within a minute of the message being sent, people started replying in the group. Well said, Mr. Wang. No wonder some people have the worst grades. They put all their energy into stirring up trouble. None of her roommates have a problem with it. She's the only one making a fuss. It's obvious who is at fault. Li Xian instantly sent a pitiful emoji, captioning it, "Thank you, Teacher Wang, for being fair. I really have been trying my best to adapt to my roommates." Hu Zhao and Chen Jin said nothing, but in a group of over 400 people, their silence was an attitude. I stared at the screen, my fingertips cold. Sure enough, in the end they still chose to play it safe and protect themselves, sacrificing me. I couldn't stay in the dorm any longer. I stood up to grab my luggage and leave. The three of them immediately locked their eyes on me. Li Xian spoke first, her tone aggressive and overbearing. Teacher Wang has already made the judgment, so what's your problem? If you insist on moving out, you're deliberately trying to start rumors that we've been ostracizing you. She deliberately raised her voice toward the other two, cementing my reputation as someone stirring up trouble with hidden motives. Li Xian, are you really going to keep fungi in your dorm, never take a bath? Is that what you told Teacher Wang as well? His hand was tightly gripping his phone, which was still showing the recording. Upon hearing this, Hu Zhao and Chen Jin secretly hoped I would confront him face to face and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Li Xian continued to argue plausibly, spouting nonsense about how fungi boost immunity. Of course, like I said, I'm doing this for your own good. Fungi can improve your immune system and physical resistance, so you won't get sick. Someone like you, who falls ill every few days, is sick because you're too clean. Without another word, I walked straight toward the door. Where are you going so late? Lights out soon. Freshmen aren't allowed to stay out all night. Li Xian immediately tried to stop me. To the bathroom. I'm going too. She immediately got out of bed and followed, clearly determined to keep an eye on me. Afraid I might take the chance to leave, I paused, glanced back indifferently, and said, "Then forget it, I'm not going." Only then did she reluctantly climb back into bed. At that moment, I was completely sure she was terrified of me leaving the dorm, watching me like a venomous snake eyeing its prey, refusing to let me go. I had no choice but to pretend to give in, unpacking my luggage and laying it out as if I had given up on moving out. Trying to leave by force tonight would only escalate the conflict. I had to pretend to be obedient and wait until late at night to find a chance to slip away. When the dorm was filled with the sound of snoring late at night, I quietly got up, grabbed my belongings, and sneaked out without a sound. 7. When I got downstairs, I saw my parents standing at the dorm management office door. My mother was quietly talking to the dorm matron, while my father looked anxiously toward the elevator. "Ma'am, my daughter suddenly feels very unwell. I'm taking her to the emergency room. I've already messaged the advisor to report this. Here's a liability waiver. We won't cause you any trouble." The dorm matron hesitated, looking at the waiver and the text message my mother showed her. I bent over, clutching my stomach, my face pale. My nose had been stuffy all day, my throat was itchy and sore, so at that moment I did look genuinely ill. I didn't need to fake it completely. Startled, the dorm matron quickly put away the waiver and opened the door. "Hurry, take her to the hospital. Don't delay her condition." My father immediately came over to support me and hurried me toward the car, settling into the car, away from that musty, scheming dormitory. My taut nerves finally began to ease. Outside the window, the light from traffic regulation street lamps flickered on and off as it passed by. Mom handed me a bottle of water from the front seat and asked anxiously, "What exactly is going on? First you need me to get a fungal allergy certificate, then you say someone wants to harm you." 8. I took the water and took a big gulp. "One of my roommates has been brainwashed by her boyfriend. She wants to grow fungus in the dorm. Kids these days have such strange tastes. The other day I heard that old Wang's son Xiao Han wanted to raise a lizard, and now someone's into growing fungus." Dad glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his voice tinged with confusion. "A lizard is at least a living creature, but growing fungus, what's the point? Her boyfriend says that opening the windows during the rainy season to grow mold can boost your immunity." I felt ridiculous even as I said it. "All that reading has rotted your brain, huh?" My mother's voice rose a pitch. "Lynn, drive straight to the hospital and get your sister checked out, because my name, May, sounds very close to little sister." My parents doted on me. Even after my little brother was born, I remained the family's most cherished little sister. That's why they gave me the nickname, Mimi, little sister. I used to think she was just losing her mind from reading too much, but today, I realized something's wrong. She didn't want me to leave the dorm, but anyone who knows me knows I have a mild case of OCD. So if she really wanted to grow fungi, she should have wanted me to leave the dorm. My parents exchanged a glance. My mother was the first to catch on. "She won't let you leave the dorm. Does that mean she wants you to stop her? Could she be under the control of a cult, with someone monitoring her, trying to reach you for help this way?" Thinking back to the consequences of stopping her in my past life, I shook my head. "No, it's more like she wants to achieve some goal through me stopping her." "Dad, help me look into a phone. He should be one of Lee Xian's people. I'll check out this a phone," my dad said, tapping the steering wheel lightly. "You mentioned earlier that her boyfriend hasn't bathed in a year." She said so herself. She also said Fang's roommates all got seriously ill, but nothing happened to him. That's not immunity, that's the pathogen itself. My mom frowned and muttered. I didn't respond, just watched the drizzling rain outside the window. In my past life, I wasn't interested in the boyfriend Lee Xian mentioned, so I didn't try to investigate. Strange cases like this usually become gossip. If Lee Xian's boyfriend really existed, it should have been easy to find out. 9. The next afternoon, my father called me. I only found one on phone. His voice sounded a bit strange, as if he wasn't sure what tone to use for what came next. He's 46. Works at a building materials market in a county under our city. His wife is a cashier at a supermarket, and their kid is already in middle school. He and Lee Xian went to the same high school, but in different years. Back then, he stopped bathing for so long that mushrooms grew on his bed, which led to his roommate's foot getting infected by fungus and amputated. He's the only oddball like that around there. There's one more thing, my father continued. Lee Xian is not his girlfriend at all. Old Lee himself said that a female college student did add him on WeChat and asked him about cultivating bacteria to boost immunity. She even said she wanted to take him as her mentor. He thought it was strange but didn't refuse, just chatted occasionally. Mentor, I repeated those two words, finding it absurd. Right, he said that girl kept asking whether, by doing this, he himself wouldn't get infected, and whether clean people are more likely to get infected. My father paused. This guy is just an ordinary, unhygienic middle-aged man, not some kind of master. Your roommate is the one who turned him into a belief. I bought his chat screenshot and sent it to you. I read the chat logs. Even though the profile picture wasn't Lee Xian's, I recognized her immediately. When she types, she always likes to use spaces. and even likes to add "law" at the end of every sentence. Lee Exayan actively sought out this knowledge. She wants people who care about cleanliness to get infected. I'm even quite sure she wanted me to be the one infected. If a Foong isn't Lee Exayan's boyfriend, then her reason for wanting to kill me in a past life wouldn't hold up. She made up that excuse just to kill me. Dad, Lee Exayan isn't your long-lost daughter, is she? Trying to harm me and take our family's assets. I thought for a long time but couldn't figure out what kind of deep grievance Lee Exayan had against me that would drive her to kill me in a self-destructive way. Crazy, don't talk nonsense. I've been completely faithful to your mother. After hearing what I said, my dad hit me on the back of my head. Ow, I just can't figure it out. I'm pretty sure I never had any conflict with her before. Some extreme people have extreme reasons for harming others. Maybe something you did unconsciously made her hold a grudge. Sis, think carefully. From the start of the semester until now, have you done or said anything that Lee Exayan might have seen as targeting her? I tried hard to remember, then shook my head. You know, I don't take many things very seriously. I'm pretty easygoing, except for my mild OCD, but we never argued about hygiene before. It was only after Lee Exayan got a boyfriend that she started being messy. In this life, I chose not to argue with her. After hearing that, my mother fell silent for quite a while. There must be something wrong with her mentally. Sweetheart, you'd better not board at school. I'll have your father rent a room for you near the school, and get you a medical certificate. 10. The paperwork for day student status went very smoothly. My father called in a favor, and together with the hospital certificate for fungal allergies, the school approved special day student status, exempting me from morning and evening study sessions. I only needed to attend classes on time and take exams. I sent a message in the class group chat. At everyone, due to personal health reasons, I have applied for day student status and will no longer live in the dormitory. The reason I'm not staying in the dorm is purely personal and has nothing to do with anyone else. Wishing you all the best in your studies. I originally wanted to write directly about Lee Exayan's hygiene issues, but my mom told me to avoid her using the happy avoidance principle. She said Lee Exayan is very extreme, and if I expose her poor hygiene, I'm afraid she might do something even more terrifying. I know my mom is right, yet I always feel a sense of unease that I can't quite put into words. Lee Exayan's reason for wanting to kill me in a past life, "You made me break up," was false. So what was her real reason? I still don't know to this day. The scariest thing is when someone hates you for a reason you don't even know, because you never know when, or what you did or said, will become the trigger for her next outburst. 11. Things turned out just as I expected. My backing off did not make Lee Exayan stop. Teacher Wang sent a message in the class group. Recently, some students have reported that a day student is spreading false statements about their dormitory roomie outside the school. Please conduct yourself with propriety. Conflicts inside the dormitory should be resolved internally, not escalated into rumor mongering. No names were mentioned, but the whole class knew it was about me, because I was the only day student. I stared at that message for a long time, my fingers turning cold. Did I spread false rumors? In my entire life, I have never even chatted with anyone about Lee Exayan. The only explanation is Lee Exayan struck first. She preemptively pinned the blame on me in the class group chat, in front of our advisor, and among our classmates. Just like she said in the dorm, if I moved out, she'd claim they were the ones being ostracized by me. As soon as class ended, I was blocked at the classroom door by Hu Xiao and Chen Jin. Dorm leader, do you know that your selfish decision to move out will leave a stain on us, making it look like we couldn't get along with our roommate, just because you can't get into grad school? Do you have to ruin our chances too? Chen Jin shouted at me angrily. Dorm leader, we've known each other for almost 2 years. Can you please not do this to us? Getting into grad school really means everything to me. Hu Xiao reached out, trying to tug at my sleeve. Pleading, I dodged to the side. This move made them even more convinced of what Lee Exayan had said. You look down on. I interrupted Hu Xiao before she could finish. You've also said we've known each other for nearly 2 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? I've never spread any rumors. I avoided you because I'm allergic to mold. Whether you take the postgraduate entrance exam or not doesn't matter to me. If you pass, I lose nothing. If you fail, I gain nothing. Since the beginning of freshman year, I've said I'm not taking the exam. After saying that, I turned to leave, then move back in, to prove that you're not doing all this because your grades are bad. Chen Jin blocked the direction I was leaving, refusing to let me go. Why should I have to prove to you that I didn't do something I never did, because your leaving got us called in by the advisor, who said our dorm's internal conflicts were mishandled and it would affect the class evaluation. Chen Jin's voice rose, carrying a self-righteous resentment. You just pack up and leave, and we're left holding the bag. I looked at her, feeling both amused and deeply disappointed. So what you're saying is, I should stay and keep putting up with Li Xian's fungus, her refusal to open the windows or bathe, just so you two won't get called in by the advisor. I never said you had to put up with it. You could argue with her. I did argue with her. And then what? I interrupted. Would you have stepped up to speak for me? Chen Jin opened her mouth, but no words came out. Hu Xiao whispered beside me, we don't dare to say anything. I laughed when I heard this. You all speak very frankly to me because you've always known that I don't hold grudges. You know what kind of person I am. And you know Li Xian orchestrated the whole thing. You stopped me and forced me back to the dorm with this flimsy excuse. It's only because you don't want to argue with Li Xian, because Li Xian is someone Teacher Wang values, and you're afraid Teacher Wang will write negative comments in your files for the graduate school entrance exam, so you want me to fight for your rights, to argue on your behalf. But why should I? Chen Jin's face flushed deep red, her lips quivered a few times, and finally she managed to squeeze out, anyway, you're not taking the grad school exam, so you don't care about Teacher Wang's comments. Looking at Chen Jin's flushed face, I suddenly felt it was all so pointless. I really don't care, but why should I help you? Chen Jin froze, she opened her mouth, then closed it again, like a fish tossed ashore. You too. I looked at her, then at Hu Xiao, who was avoiding my gaze, since freshman year. Who did the dorm cleaning? Me. Who bought the hand soap, tissues, trash bags? Me. When Li Xian stopped bathing and started growing mold with the windows open, who was the first to speak up? Me. And what did you do? You hid in the back. And after I finished fighting, you came back and asked, dorm leader, you okay? You're not blind to what Li Xian did. You just didn't want to cross her, because crossing her gets you nothing. Crossing me, that's fine, I'll forgive. And I did, every time. So I deserved it. Chen Jin's eyes reddened. Her lips trembled. We didn't. You do. My voice was not loud, but every word was clear. You do, every time. Before, you all knew the truth, but you chose silence. Silence is an attitude. Your silence told Li Xian that she could bully me as she pleased, because you wouldn't help her, and you certainly wouldn't help me. Hu Xiao's tears fell. Lin Mei, I'm sorry, don't apologize. I said, apologies are useless. If you really mean it, go to the advisor's office and tell the truth. Don't expect me to be the one to stick my neck out. Chen Jin lowered her head. Hu Xiao bit her lip and said nothing. See, I chuckled. You don't even dare to do this. Yet you dare to block me, force me back to that moldy dorm, and take the heat for you. 12. Li Xian was even crazier than I thought. I noticed someone tailing me as soon as I left the school gate. I didn't dare go to the place I rented nearby, so I had to take a taxi and circle around. Li Xian's family doesn't have money to burn on taxis just to follow me. Only after I was sure no one was there did I tell the driver to head home. As soon as I got home, I told my parents what had happened today. This Li Xian is even more unhinged than we thought. Maybe you should go abroad to study. I nodded helplessly. In my previous life, I had to go abroad because of Li Xian's rumors, but in this life, it seems this path is still my only choice. 13. I never expected that my decision to go abroad and step aside would only intensify Li Xian's madness. The rumors from my previous life arrived right on schedule, and this time they even dragged my parents into the lies. On the very night I completed my procedures to go abroad, the campus forum and mini-forum were flooded with gossip about me. The story was the same as in my previous life. Li Xian sobbed in a video. I've been very cooperative with Lin Mei, but because I shower 3 times a day, I've developed eczema. I just asked if we could cut back on such frequent showers, and she got upset, saying I don't care about personal hygiene. This was originally just an issue in our dorm, but she had to go around bad-mouthing us, claiming none of us care about cleanliness. The moment I raised the slightest objection, she moved out and started spreading rumors that we were bullying her. Teacher Wang told us to handle our roommate relationships, saying that if we can't get along with classmates, it would affect our graduate school applications. My other 2 roommates begged her to come back so we wouldn't ruin our chances at grad school, and she just cursed them out, saying she's got her family to fall back on and was never planning on grad school anyway. Why should she care whether we get in or not? Her parents also pressured the school, saying that because of her, our evaluation records have been tarnished, yet she gets to study abroad directly. Does being from a poor family mean you can be sacrificed at will? Some people had already started doxing my parents' company. So I didn't wait for the public outcry to grow any larger. I directly released 2 audio recordings. One was recorded in the academic advisor's office, the other was deliberately led by me when I asked Lee Xian to answer as I was leaving. I had thought about avenging my past self by releasing these recordings, but then I remembered my mother's principle of, the happy person yields. As long as I keep studying at that school, running into Lee Xian is unavoidable. Lee Xian would use this reason to kill me for the rest of my life. I also really wanted to know what exactly Lee Xian's problem with me was, but compared to my life, those reasons mattered far less. 14. But what I didn't expect was that on the day I went to get my visa, I was forced to see Lee Xian anyway and learned the whole truth. After I released the recording, the tide of public opinion turned faster than I expected, but it was also more disgusting than I imagined. On the 3rd day after the recording was released, people started recognizing Lee Xian. Start with your own class. People used to think there was some indescribable smell about her. Now they knew. It wasn't indescribable, it was the stench of sourness, of sweat and body odor, the kind of foulness that builds up from not bathing for ages and seeps deep into the fibers of her clothes. During class, the seats around her began to empty out. No one said a word, but everyone did the same thing. Once she sat down, the person next to her would quietly shift one seat away, one after another, like dominoes falling. In the cafeteria, when she stood in line, the people ahead unconsciously held their breath. When she turned around with her tray, those behind instinctively took half a step back. Behind her back, whispers started. That's her, isn't it? She really stinks. I used to think it was a problem with the dorm's pipes. How did she do it? Not bathing for a month, 3 months. I heard from her roommate that her boyfriend went a year without bathing, and she learned from him. These whispered rumors behind her back sent Lee Xian into a coma. When Lee Xian regained consciousness, she was told that her lungs had already been infected by fungus. Chen Jin and Hu Xiao also had fungal infections in their lungs. Only then did they dare to step forward and tell the truth. Upon learning that she had a serious illness, she ran straight to the roof of the teaching building, threatening to kill herself, forcing everyone to call me out. I had no choice but to appear on the rooftop under police protection. A large crowd had gathered at the foot of the teaching building. There were teachers, security guards, school administrators, who had rushed over upon hearing the news, and a few students holding up their phones. In this day and age, you record everything first and ask questions later. Lee Xian sat on the edge of the rooftop, her legs dangling outside, the wind blowing her hair into a tangled mess. The moment she saw me, her eyes suddenly turned red. It wasn't self-pity, nor fear. It was something indescribable, complicated, and almost ready to burst. You came, she said, her voice so hoarse it didn't sound like her. I came. I stood 5 steps away from her, not moving closer. Whatever you want to say, go ahead. Look, she suddenly laughed, an ugly laugh. You're still so clean, still smell so nice. Then, with revulsion, she said, still think I smell so bad, still think I'm so dirty. You make yourself stink, and then you blame others for disliking your stench. I really couldn't understand Lee Xian's way of thinking, afraid of others calling her smelly. Yet she deliberately cultivated a persona of being unhygienic. What do you know? Why didn't you stop me? If you had stopped me, I wouldn't have become stinky. Then I would be the stinky one. If I stopped you, you'd still spread rumors about me, and my reputation would stink. That was your real goal from the start, wasn't it? I looked at Lee Xian calmly. Why did you do this? Do you know why I hate you? She turned her head, looking at the empty space downstairs, and her voice suddenly became very soft. You don't know, you've never known. My parents are pig farmers. Even though I keep myself very clean every day and don't have any smell at all, for all 3 years of high school, people kept saying behind my back that I stank. I busted my ass to get into a university far away. I kept myself spotless. I thought that if no one knew who I was, they wouldn't smell anything on me. On registration day, I was alone in the farthest bed, putting my things away. When you pushed the door open, the first thing you said was, she turned her head and stared right at me. It stinks. I froze. I never expected that the reason I died in my past life was because of a casual remark. What I meant was the dorm room. It's been closed up too long and smells bad. Need some air. Do you have any idea how much I wanted to die back then? Lee Xian's tears finally fell. I studied like crazy, worked like crazy, tried like crazy to become a normal person. But then on the first day of college, the first thing I heard was, "You stink, you always smell nice, you use the best shampoo, the most expensive perfume, any one bottle of that costs as much as I could earn in a whole summer of hard labor, while you lie in bed playing on your phone. I just got back from the kitchen at the restaurant. My apron is covered in grease, my hair reeks of cooking oil, and my whole body stinks terribly. Why, we're both people, you get to smell sweet, and I have to stink just to get by. That's not fair, I'm going to make you stink too." She began to cry, shaking all over, her entire body teetering on the edge of the rooftop. "I know you have a thing about cleanliness, you'll try to stop me, and when you do, I'll use that to ruin your reputation, make everyone despise you, you'll only end up hurting yourself. Ha ha ha, I knew you wouldn't stop me in this life. But I succeeded in my last life. I ruined your reputation. After you died, everyone said you deserved it." My blood turned to ice. "I know you've also been reborn." Lee Xian looked at me calmly, tears still on her face, but her expression suddenly turned very cold. So cold it didn't suit someone sitting on the edge of a rooftop. "Do you know why I ruined your reputation and then killed you? Because I realized that even if I trashed your name, your parents would still have your back, and you could just go abroad to study. Still that sweet, untainted you. But if you die, that stench will cling to you forever. Ha 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 ha. I hate that I was reborn later than you, otherwise, I could have perfected my plan even more." Lee Xian smiled at me, and that smile sent chills down my spine. What? I looked at Lee Xian in bewilderment, then turned to signal the officer who had brought me here. I asked quietly, "What am I supposed to say to that? Is she out of her mind?" The officer hadn't expected Lee Xian to go crazy either. "Just calm her down, go along with whatever she says. Look how amazing you are, you succeeded in your past life, and you're succeeding in this one too. Come down first." My body was drenched in sweat as I realized Lee Xian was trying to drag me down with her at the last moment. If I admit my rebirth in front of so many people, I will definitely be captured and studied. Ha 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 ha. I lost. I admit defeat. You won't be so lucky in your next life. With that, Lee Xian fell backward, her whole body collapsing. She was saved by the rescue cushion. I kept worrying that she would start babbling when she woke up, but to my surprise, the awakened Lee Xian had truly gone mad. The fungus had indeed infected her brain, making her unable to distinguish between this life and her past one, unable to tell clean from filthy. Chen Jin and Hu Xiao also had to take a leave of absence from school due to fungal infections in their lungs. Teacher Wang was suspended because his failure to conduct due diligence led to a tragedy. I did not return to that university and chose to continue studying abroad. Story 2. Every divine maiden born into the celestial harp lineage comes into this world accompanied by a spiritual zither. When the maiden ascends to divinity, should her playing summon the zither's spirit, the awakened instrument may ascend alongside its mistress and form an eternal bond. In my past life, I nourished the spiritual zither with my heart's blood. Upon my ascension, the instrument's soul coalesced and successfully manifested as an immortal being. On the day of our sacred pact, the 3-year drought plaguing the mortal realm ceased, and the heavenly emperor himself appeared to proclaim me the celestial harp of destiny. Just as I was rejoicing, the Guqin spirit suddenly thrust its sword toward my chest. My sister lay in his arms, laughing with uncontrollable mirth. In that moment, I realized, even when he was still the dragon-patterned Guqin, he had already been deeply in love with my sister. When I opened my eyes again, my sister had stealthily swapped my Guqin, leaving me with her charred, unusable wooden instrument. I picked up her Guqin, chuckling inwardly. My sister never realized, without me, that dragon-patterned antique zither was just worthless junk. The agony of a blade piercing my heart still lingered as I opened my eyes to survey my surroundings. Birds trilled through the mountain valley where celestial blossoms bloomed in abundance. The patriarch of our Qin deity lineage, my father, sat at the head of the hall, with elders flanking either side, cradling my Guqin. I noticed the white gossamer robes reserved for ascension ceremonies clinging to my frame. This was the very scene from my apotheosis. My heart leapt. Against all odds, I'd truly been reborn. Today marks your sisterhood's ascension. Come, let me inspect your Guqins. Has the instrument's spirit manifested its true form? Before father's words fully faded, Lyra darted forward with her instrument cradled in her arms. She lifted the silk cover to reveal an ancient zither carved from crystal, its surface etched with dragon motifs. That was my zither. Peeling back my own cover, I exposed a charred corner, the scorched wooden zither that had originally belonged to Lyra. Calling this thing a zither is being generous. It's basically a charred piece of firewood. As splitting headaches brought back memories from before entering the Valley of Echoes, I recalled how Lyra had swapped my blood-forged crystal dragon zither for her practically unusable piece of kindling. What I'd initially taken for betrayal now made perfect sense. She too had been reborn. She knew my dragon zither would manifest its spirit and ascend to immortality today, so she forced that exchange. Her brother scolded her for such mischief. Lyra, that's Ira's zither. Give it back to her at once. The zither spirit serves as guardian to every divine zither master. Each goddess born into the zither lineage arrives with a spiritual instrument. When the goddess ascends, if her playing awakens the zither's spirit, the spirit may ascend alongside her and form a pact, laying the foundation for future dual cultivation. Legends say dual cultivation between goddess and zither spirit accelerates divine power exponentially, with exceptional cases triggering celestial phenomena that earn the title of divine zither master. My spirit zither is an exquisite violet chain adorned with dragon motifs, while Lyra's is a charred black wooden instrument. Lyra took my spirit zither. Today, its divine energy will coalesce into a sentient zither spirit and ascend as an immortal. For a spirit zither to manifest consciousness is already extraordinary. Physical manifestation occurs once a century, while direct ascension to immortality is a millennium-spanning marvel in our clan. Hearing her brother's rebuke, Lyra's eyes welled with bitter tears. I lost my mother as a child because of that scourge Ira. She was born with the dragon-patterned spirit zither and nourishes it with heart's blood, all because she stole my birthright through her cursed existence. I took her zither because she owes me this. My eyes welled up with tears, a lump forming in my throat. Lyra and I are full siblings, born of the same mother, twins. In fact, our clan whispers that twin sisters bring ill fortune. Born mere moments after Lyra, I was deemed the cursed twin when our mother died of hemorrhage shortly after my birth. Ever since childhood, Lyra has used this to torment me, accusing me of causing our mother's death and stealing the blessings that rightfully belonged to her. Because of this, Father harbored nothing but utter loathing for me. In my past life, I suffered constant mistreatment, and Lyra took cruel delight in toying with me. At 200 years old, she trapped me in the Beast Valley where I fought spirit beasts until my body was nearly torn apart, until my brother found me and rescued my blood-soaked form. At 400 years old, she poisoned my tea. While I was cultivating, I nearly perished completely, but my brother channeled his divine power to save me from certain doom. At 900, she gathered a group of elder immortals to imprison and defile me. I uncovered the plot in time and told my brother, who slaughtered every last one of them. Without my brother, I would never have lived to ascend. Later, when the heavenly emperor appointed me as the celestial zither deity, she still wouldn't relent. At the height of my joy, she made the zither spirit I'd nourished with my heart's blood impale me to death. The elder brother frowned in displeasure. What nonsense are you spouting? Don't you realize the significance of today? With all the clan elders present, return Ira's Guchin immediately. We mustn't delay her ascension ceremony. Lyra snorted coldly, ignoring her brother as she wheedled their father. Papa, I just want the dragon-engraved Guchin. Can't you make Ira give it to me, please? Their father remained silent, lost in thought without giving an immediate answer. Seeing her father's hesitation, Lyra tugged at his sleeve with tearful desperation. Ira's already prettier than me, healthier than me, more accomplished in cultivation. If she gains a Qin spirit too, won't she just overshadow me completely and bully me as she pleases? Tears streamed down her face as she continued. If mother were still here, she'd never let me suffer like this. A cold glint flashed in father's eyes as he stared at me. Ira, surrender your dragon-engraved Guchin to Lyra, my brother interjected urgently. Father, the spirit zither is an innate artifact of the divine harp lineage's priestesses. Moreover, Ira has nourished this dragon-patterned Guchin daily with her heart's blood, transforming it from wood into amethyst crystal. Now it even shows soul-gathering properties. After all her sacrifices, father cut him off impatiently. Enough, she owes Lyra this debt regardless, so be it. Father's loathing runs so deep that even if I tore out my bleeding heart, he'd only see darkness. From a very young age, I carefully curried favor with Lyra because father adored her. I thought if I yielded to her and made her like me, father might finally notice me. Father placed utmost importance on the soul-gathering ritual of the spirit harp, so I drained my energy and endured excruciating pain, nourishing it with my heart's blood, all for a single word of praise from him. Now, with just one word, ode, Father erased all my efforts, bitter resentment fills my heart. Today, I shall sever both this ungrateful harp and the love I could never obtain. I glanced at the zither in Lyra's hands and said coolly, "You can have this instrument, sister." My brother gasped in disbelief. "Lyra, don't be rash, that's the spirit zither you've nourished with your heart's blood for 1,000 years, besides, you've cultivated together for a millennium. How could you possibly gather souls and manifest forms with another's instrument?" He gave a disdainful look at the charcoal in my hand. "You'd use this piece of firewood," I said coldly. "That zither in my sister's hands isn't worth keeping. What use is a spirit zither that betrays its master?" An elder stepped forward to mediate the awkward situation. "Young master need not worry. Priestess Lyra is naturally gifted and has trained diligently since childhood. Though merely 1,000 years old, her cultivation already surpasses her peers. Surely she can work miracles even without her longtime spirit zither." The other elders nodded in agreement, though their eyes betrayed mere perfunctory courtesy. Deep down, everyone knew Lyra's spirit-bound zither was nothing but a rotten piece of wood. Lyra had even given up on her own cultivation, half-heartedly refining her zither's soul between bouts of laziness. After 1,000 years of tempering that charred wooden instrument, she hadn't even managed to manifest its strings. Lyra shot me a disdainful glance, tilting her chin as she sneered, "Thinking you can condense a zither's soul with that worthless scrap of wood? Little sister would struggle to ascend to godhood with such delusions." Cradling the crystal zither adorned with dragon motifs in one hand, she plucked its strings lightly with the other. The violet chains suddenly radiated brilliant light as a purple mist coalesced into a robed man who materialized beside her. An ethereal aura shimmered around the man's form. The elders gasped in unison, "The Chin Immortal, I am Ronan, the dragon-patterned Chin Immortal." His dark violet robes embroidered with subtle dragon motifs billowed as he descended gracefully beside Lyra, cradling her hands with tender expression. "Master, it was you who awakened me. I vow to stay by your side for eternity. In my past life, I exhausted half my cultivation just to help him materialize, yet he wouldn't even let me touch his sleeve. I thought him naturally aloof, but his warmth was reserved only for his beloved." Violet energy rippled from Ronan's and her clasped hands. In the past, Lyra had failed her celestial ascension due to insufficient cultivation. In this life, Ronan's act was actually using the heart's blood I'd painfully shed over millennia to help her ascend to godhood. In mere moments, Lyra levitated mid-air as pink petals swirled from her feet, coalescing into a rosy glow that merged with her golden core. Her white robes shimmered pink before she gently descended. The elders and my father rose from their seats, offering their congratulations. "Hail Lyra, the zither goddess, on your successful ascension." Her father approached her, beaming with pride. "Lyra, I always knew you'd make me proud, my child." He took Lyra's hand and led her to the center of the valley, solemnly declaring, "The bonding ceremony between Lyra and Ronan shall take place 7 days hence." He seemed to have forgotten. Beneath the shade of Echo Vale's trees, there still remained his unremarkable other daughter. Of course, in his eyes and heart, there was never room for a daughter like me. My brother whispered beside him, "Father, Ira's ascension rite hasn't been performed yet." Father sneered. "She lost her spirit harp. What right does she have to ascend? With that lump of charcoal she's clinging to." "Enough, we're done here." My brother shot me an apologetic glance, helpless to intervene. I stepped forward and declared loudly, "Father, though my sister has ascended as the goddess of zither, even she may not be able to end this mortal drought." Lyra's eyes flashed with defiance. "As the goddess of zither with my spirit instrument transformed into a zither immortal, I bear heaven's mandate. Of course I can." With a faint smile, I bowed to our father. "Should my sister fail, I humbly ask for your permission to attempt ascension." In our previous lives, Lyra had never accepted being second to me in cultivation. Now that she finally had her chance for payback, she wouldn't let it slip away. Initially, Father had considered postponing the matter given Lyra's consistently weak cultivation, but unable to resist my provocation, she was eager to prove herself before the crowd. She then wheedled Father into letting her try, and he reluctantly agreed. Lyra channeled her energy into the zither, releasing pastel-hued musical notes from her fingertips. Her melody drifted into listeners' ears like wispy smoke, yet her technique lacked vigor. While pleasing to the ear, Her music was devoid of spiritual backbone. She played for a long time, her forehead glistening with cold sweat. In the water mirror reflecting the mortal realm, rivers remained parched and the earth cracked. At that moment, Ronan transformed into a wisp of violet mist, merging with the crystal dragon pattern Guqin, and Lyra's music suddenly gained a powerful resonance. I couldn't help but feel a pang in my heart. The Guqin spirit I nurtured with a millennium of my heart's blood actually chose to sacrifice itself as a vessel, exhausting its spiritual energy to help Lyra summon rain. This was nothing short of shortening my lifespan to pave Lyra's path to glory. The more I reflect, the more I realize how utterly foolish I was in my past life. I always believed that since he was nourished by my heart's blood and carried my essence, our bond was naturally profound. After my elder brother, he was the closest to me in this world. Whenever I felt troubled, he was always the one I confided in, even when he mocked me with harsh words, belittling my cultivation and calling my zither playing dreadful. I just wiped my tears in secret and trained harder. Yet when ascension came, he stubbornly refused to gather his soul. Only when I poured half my cultivation into the zither's melody did his scattered soul finally coalesce into immortal form. Yet I never held it against him. On the day Ronan and I swore our celestial vows, my divine composition broke the 3-year drought, summoning the heavenly emperor himself to crown me the new goddess of strings. Little did I know, before our happiness could blossom, Ronan's blade would pierce my heart, extinguishing all joy. In my dying moments, I watched him embrace Lyra and finally understood. He had fallen for my sister back when he was still trapped within the dragon pattern Guqin. The last sound I heard before darkness took me was his voice dripping with contempt. Lyra, you're the blight of the zither god lineage, utterly unworthy of the title. Only a goddess as pure, kind and innocent as Lyra deserves to be the true zither god. The heavens shall weep. The elders' startled cries snapped me back to reality. The world's weather in the water mirror transformed with Lyra's harp music. Dark clouds gathered, lightning flashed, and howling winds arose in an instant as the impending storm approached. The people knelt in hopeful anticipation, gazing skyward. Even the mortal emperor roared to the heavens, "Heaven bless our great Zhao kingdom." At that very moment, a string snapped, and the music came to an abrupt halt. The dark clouds parted, revealing the scorching sun that once again dominated the sky. The elders' initial excitement plummeted into despair. The long vacant throne of the harp deity would remain without its rightful master. Ronan emerged from the harp, his face pale with a trace of blood at the corner of his lips. Lyra flew into a rage, shouting, "This round doesn't count, let's go again." My brother said disapprovingly, "Lyra, stop being unreasonable. The strings of the spirit harp are broken and require magical energy to repair. How can you play without strings?" Seizing the moment, I addressed our father. "Since my sister failed to end the mortal realm's drought, I beg you to let me proceed with my ascension ceremony." Father was clearly reluctant, but with so many witnesses present, he couldn't very well go back on his word. Lyra looked at me and the charred lute in my hands with utter disdain. "If my little sister insists on making a fool of herself, by all means proceed. I'd love to see how a piece of stringless firewood could possibly elevate your cultivation. Then watch closely, elder sister." Channeling half my spiritual energy, I levitated the scorched wooden instrument until it hovered midair, condensing chi into a golden dagger. I performed the millennia familiar motion of carving out a drop of heart's blood, letting it cascade onto the lute. The charred zither instantly resonated with my divine blood, its strings transforming into the deepest ebony. Lyra gasped beside me, "That's impossible. In our lineage of zither deities, ebony strings signify supreme status, a mark only the most sacred spirit instruments possess." Unheeding, I slowly knelt before the zither, settling onto the floor. My fingers danced softly across the strings, the melody flowing like mountain streams through valleys, weaving through the clouds. In the watery mirror, the scattered dark clouds in the mortal sky gathered once more, and within moments, rain poured down in torrents. The people wept and kowtowed, crying out, "Heaven be praised, heaven be praised." A weightless force rose from my toes, lifting me into midair as I became enveloped in blinding golden light. Ronan's venomous voice hissed in my ear, "Ira is about to ascend. We must stop her ascension." A streak of white sword light pierced through the golden radiance. As I opened my eyes, a dark-robed man intercepted before I could act. Deflecting Ronan's blade, he roared in fury, "How dare you disrupt my master's ascension?" As I touched down, my white robes transformed into a gown of pale golden brocade. He knelt on one knee. "Xander the harp spirit pays homage to my liege. Though not a celestial harp master, Xander's human form was exceptionally rare, his noble bearing commanded respect. And though pallor touched his features, his presence outshone even Ronan's. Lyra was grinding her teeth in fury, watching me ascend effortlessly, summon souls with the spirit zither, and resolve the devastating drought she couldn't quell. Where did this sickly wretch come from? Guards, drive this monster out at once. With that, she began channeling magic to strike at Xander. I helped Xander up and projected a defensive shield. Any murderous intent from her would rebound as self-harm. She'd been wronged but couldn't speak up, so she went crying to Father for justice. Father always took Lyra's side, and now he wanted to defend her, but I cut him off with a retort. Sister, you borrowed another's cultivation to ascend. Don't forget to polish your fundamentals. Xander is a zither spirit I summoned before the entire clan's elders. Not some sickly weakling or monster as you claim. For a goddess, you can't even tell spirits from demons. How laughable that would sound. Lyra flushed crimson with rage, hearing my words. Father couldn't openly favor Lyra before the crowd, so he declared solemnly, the ascension of our two divine maidens is cause for celebration, and the twin spirits manifesting in the sacred zither is a once-in-an-era blessing. Thus, Lyra and Ira shall hold their bonding ceremonies with their respective zither spirits 7 days hence. The elders nodded in unanimous approval, with twin spirits united and divine zither cultivation perfected. Our zither divinity lineage is truly blessed, our ancient heritage shall surely be restored to its former glory. The return of the celestial zither deity is imminent. As the ascension ceremony concluded, the crowd dispersed in joyous celebration. Lyra pouted unhappily, tugging at her father's sleeve. Papa, the charred zither was rightfully mine. Xander should have been my zither spirit. Her brother's face darkened. Don't be absurd, Lyra, he chided. You're the one who stole Ira's zither in the first place. Lyra showed no remorse whatsoever. Who says I stole her harp, father? Clearly stated she gave it to me, since it was willingly surrendered. Both harps rightfully belong to me, their spirits included. How shameless. Father remained silent, offering no response. With tears welling in her eyes, Lyra turned to her father and played her usual card. Papa, that ill-omened Ira never deserved a harp spirit to begin with. She's the one who caused Mother's death. Father glared at me with pure revulsion in his eyes. As if I were some filthy creature. I've shouldered this vile accusation for 1,000 years out of familial duty. It's time they woke up to the truth. A cold smirk curled my lips. If Lyra doesn't know whether I killed Mother, does Father truly not know either? Father's face froze in that telltale look of a liar caught red-handed. Rage coiled in his chest, yet found no outlet. Both my brother and Lyra turned to me with puzzled expressions. I continued, to secure his position as clan leader. Father forced my pregnant mother to deplete her spiritual energy in dual cultivation with him, despite his own stagnant cultivation progress. I paused. Tell me, Father, who truly caused Mother's death? Father's face darkened, his eyes glinting with barely concealed murderous intent. For just a fleeting moment, I glimpsed guilt in his eyes. There and gone like a wisp of smoke. In my past life, just before my wedding, I accidentally learned the truth about my mother's death from an elderly family member. My father had mediocre cultivation talent, while my mother was a prodigy. He only maintained his divine throne by siphoning her spiritual power, which is why the main deity of the Qin god lineage remains unclaimed to this day. Mother exhausted her spiritual energy before childbirth, which caused her fatal complications when delivering my sister and me. To bury the truth, Father spread the malicious rumor that twin sisters bring misfortune, making me the scapegoat. It was Father who killed Mother, and it was he who, to delude himself, shamelessly let Lyra bully and humiliate me. Father flew into a rage. Ungrateful wretch, he snarled, raising his hand to strike me. Xander struck first, leaving Father's spell unfinished, his fingers frozen mid-air. Xander has sworn loyalty to me alone. None of you can take him away. From now on, I won't be your puppet anymore. Mark my words. Father, sister. I took Xander's hand and walked away without looking back. Lyra's venomous voice hissed behind me. We'll see how long your arrogance lasts, Ira. This isn't over. My brother caught up and murmured, I've got your back, Ira. Always. My eyes welled up with tears. My nose tingled with emotion as I nodded. Brother, don't worry. I promise I won't let you down. Though I've ended the 3-year drought in the mortal realm, the loot deity still hasn't returned to their throne in this lifetime. The celestial emperor hasn't appeared to proclaim me the chosen goddess either. Where exactly did things go wrong? Is Xander's spiritual energy too weak? I trained day and night, determined not to disappoint my brother who had always protected and supported me, hoping to make a breakthrough by the day of my bonding ceremony with Xander. But as my cultivation advanced, my veins felt clogged and ready to burst, my blood stagnant yet swelling through my entire body. My teeth chattered from the pain as Xander rushed to steady me. "Master, what's wrong?" Just then, Lyra pushed the door open. She burst into laughter and gloated. "Ira, I told you your arrogance wouldn't last long. Ronan secretly placed a curse on you during your cultivation sessions. If you want to live, you'll have to sever your cultivation base. Otherwise, your meridians will explode and you'll die." With that, she hummed a cheerful tune and skipped away. I coughed up a mouthful of blood as excruciating pain spread through my entire body. Xander watched me anxiously from the side, his eyes filled with genuine concern. For the first time, someone other than my brother cared for me so sincerely and wholeheartedly. I hugged him and whispered, "Don't be afraid, let's perform dual cultivation." Ancient texts mention that dual cultivation between a zither deity and spirit can miraculously cure ailments, ward off calamities, and enhance cultivation. At this point, we had nothing left to lose. I reached for his belt, undoing it with deliberate ease. His robe slipped away, revealing smooth, bare skin. Xander's face flushed crimson. "Master," he stammered, voice catching in his throat. I silenced him with a kiss, my lips claiming his before he could protest. He froze in shock. At first he remained motionless, unresponsive. Then, tentatively, he began kissing me back. His hands cupped my jade peaks, warmth flowing into my core as our spiritual energies intertwined. To my surprise, the merging eased the pain coursing through my entire body. After our passionate union, my blood sang with vitality, weightless and renewed. My cultivation unexpectedly broke through to the divine realm. I murmured to myself, "I'm healed." A halo of white light shimmered around Xander's form. A prismatic glow plunged us into momentary chaos before our surroundings cleared into crystalline clarity. Xander actually ascended to become a Zither immortal too. Who knew dual cultivation could bring such tremendous cultivation benefits? When Lyra learned I'd broken the curse and Xander had ascended as a Zither immortal, she flew into a rage in her chambers, smashing numerous magical artifacts. My brother couldn't tolerate Lyra's behavior and confronted our father directly. "If you don't discipline Lyra strictly, how is her conduct any different from those wicked fallen immortals?" Instead of punishing Lyra, father blamed me for sowing discord between my brother and her, sentencing me to kneel beneath the sacred tree for 3 days. This outcome came as no surprise to me. This time I refused to yield. With an icy, "I've done nothing wrong," I left the clan with Xander. Xander and I hadn't traveled far on our cloud when Ronan came rushing after us. "Goddess Ira, Goddess Ira." His desperate cries grew increasingly frantic. I hovered midair, frowning down at him, gasping for breath. It took him moments to recover before speaking. "When you stormed off just now, the clan chief was so enraged he coughed up blood. I fear he may not last much longer. Now he lies on his deathbed, calling out to see you one last time." My heart ached. Was it only when facing death that my father remembered his least favored youngest daughter? Very well, he did give me life after all. One final meeting would fulfill that debt of existence. I followed Ronan back to the main courtyard. When Xander tried to enter the house with me, Ronan stopped him. "Goddess Ira, the clan leader wishes to speak with you alone." I turned to Xander and said, "Wait for me at the door. I won't be long." I completely missed the fleeting shadow of malice in Ronan's eyes. Only after entering did I realize the room held no trace of my father, just layers of restraining spells. It suddenly dawned on me. Father was never in danger. This was all a scheme orchestrated by Lyra and Ronan. The door swung open as Lyra's playful laughter rang out. "Come here, little Xander." Xander seemed to be in excruciating pain as he gritted his teeth. "Over my dead body." Lyra continued her carrot and stick approach. "I've always been father's favorite. With all the clan's resources at my disposal, join me, and you'll have unlimited cultivation resources. You may choose any spiritual herb or artifact from our clan's treasury. Father favors me above all, and the leadership of the Qin clan will likely be mine to wield. In time, your cultivation progress will far surpass what that wretch Ira could ever offer you." Xander spat in disgust. "Your heart is vile, brimming with schemes and treachery. You'll never achieve greatness. Should the legacy of the loot god ever fall into hands like yours, it would surely wither." My divine power finally shattered the chamber's restraints, and I burst through the door. Xander writhed as Lyra scorched him with the fires of the 9 hells. Coddled by her father since childhood like a precious jewel, she'd never endured such contempt. In her fury, she conjured a blade of pure energy and drove it through Xander's shoulder. Before I could intervene, I backhanded Lyra across the chest, then redirected the netherworld flames from Xander's body onto Ronan. Ronan tried to dodge, but my divine-level cultivation made him no match for me. With a mere flick of my fingers, I fanned the flames, instantly engulfing him in agonizing inferno. As I examined Xander's wounds, his flesh mangled beyond recognition, white-hot fury surged through my veins, yet he still whispered weakly, "Master, I'm all right." I gripped the long sword and thrust toward Lyra's shoulder blade. Ronan threw himself in the way, enduring searing flames to intercept the blade. A cold laugh echoed in my mind. Did he truly believe a millennium nourished by my heart's blood would stay my hand? Without blinking, I drove the sword through his chest, the steel emerging to pierce Lyra's shoulder. Lyra let out a pained scream. Without even glancing at her, I scooped up Xander and retreated to my chamber. Xander's injuries were severe. I'd resigned myself to his prolonged recovery, preparing for his absence at the bonding ceremony, yet after our dual cultivation, his wounds miraculously healed completely. This time he took extraordinary initiative. Afterwards, his body radiated not just white light but a dazzling prismatic glow, showing faint signs of divine ascension. A Qin spirit's cultivation potential is intrinsically tied to its spiritual instrument. That charred wooden Qin I obtained from Lyra, her lifelong companion, was practically worthless, no better than a piece of firewood. Even with the immense spiritual power of my heart's blood essence, it would be nearly impossible to boost Xander's cultivation to such heights in such a short time. I couldn't help but voice my doubt. "Xander, where did you truly come from?" "I don't know, all I know is that your heart's blood awakened me, and you're the one I'll follow for eternity." Xander looked pitiful, like a frightened puppy afraid of being abandoned. My heart ached as if seeing my childhood self reflected in him. I nestled deeper into his embrace, wrapping my arms around his neck. "We'll stay together forever and always." On the day of the bonding ceremony, after paying homage to heaven, earth, and ancestors, we were to form blood pacts with our respective zither spirits beneath the sacred tree. Though Lyra and I should have performed the ritual simultaneously, Father, resenting my defiance, deliberately slighted me by letting Lyra and Ronan proceed first, establishing hierarchy. A shrewd glint of calculation flashed in Lyra's eyes as she and Ronan drew daggers across their index fingers. Blood dripped into the ceremonial bowl, but instead of sheathing their blades, they chanted incantations before driving the daggers into the tree's trunk. The divine tree of the Qin god lineage serves as the gateway between the celestial and demonic realms. In an instant, the once vibrant sacred tree teeming with birds and beasts began emanating dark miasma. Hordes of demon soldiers descended through the divine tree into the valley. My father and the elders all turned pale with shock. Lyra laughed maniacally at me. "Ira, so much for your supreme cultivation. With the demonic clans backing me now, the entire Qin Shan lineage will soon bow before me. Let's see how you dare oppose me." The elders erupted in condemnation upon witnessing Lyra's collusion with the demonic forces. "Ira, you're bringing disgrace upon our Qin Shan heritage. You're jeopardizing the very safety of the celestial realm." "Unrepentant," Lyra sneered. "You all supported that bitch Ira as Qin Shan. You deserve what's coming." I channeled my divine power, staring coldly at her. To this day, she remains unaware that while we receive nature's spiritual blessings, we must also bear the sacred duty of delivering all living beings. The demon soldiers rampaged through the valley, wantonly destroying celestial artifacts while attempting to breach the barrier and invade the heavenly realm. The demon commander severed my father's arm, while my brother was being forced into continuous retreat. Lyra and Ronan clasped hands tightly as dark energy swirled violently around them. Xander shouted to me, "Damn it, they're trying to unleash the demonic apocalypse magic." A howling gale swept through the valley, knocking birds and beasts from the sky as they attempted to flee. The once idyllic valley now resembled a nightmarish demonic lair. I shouted, "We must stop them." Xander said, "Use the harmony technique." He leapt into the air, his dark robes billowing as an obsidian Qin materialized from his golden core with a resonant hum. His entire being radiated iridescent light as his plain black robes transformed into magnificent dragon-embroidered silks. Xander ascended to godhood, revealing himself as the legendary Grand Master Orion, the divine harpist. Hovering above me, he extended his hand. "Ira, come." His firm grasp enveloped my hand as divine warmth pulsed between us. "Ira, close your eyes, still your mind and join me in chanting the incantation." following his spiritual consciousness, I entered a new realm, a world of pure white where Xander and I stood upon endless clouds. Xander said to me, Ira, summon your zither and play from the heart. I manifested the instrument, but it was no longer the charred wooden zither. It had transformed into a divine jade chain. Xander sat facing me, an identical chain placed before him. With my whole being, I perceived the devastation of the Loot God Valley and its suffering inhabitants. Then visions of drought-stricken mortals in the human realm flooded my mind, expanding across all three realms. Music flowed from my fingertips like pearls cascading onto a jade plate. As the final note faded, I opened my eyes to find Xander and myself back in the Loot God Valley. The dark mist dissipated as demon soldiers collapsed. Lyra and Ronan lay motionless, grievously wounded by our lute's resonance, vomiting blood in great gouts. Father's spiritual power had nearly depleted entirely, reducing him to a mere mortal without cultivation. The great calamity was quelled through the combined efforts of Xander and myself. The celestial emperor arrived upon hearing the news, and the crowd, still visibly shaken, immediately prostrated in reverence, standing mid-air with hands clasped behind his back. The celestial emperor solemnly declared, the reappearance of Orion, the sage of the Zither, across the three realms heralds the return of the Zither deity's sovereignty. He gazed at me quietly. Was it you who awakened Orion, the saint of strings? The clan members finally grasped the situation, whispering among themselves, wasn't Xander just a Zither spirit? He's actually Orion, the saint of strings. It turned out that after the previous Orion's passing, a wisp of his lingering soul wandered through the three realms until fate led it to inhabit that charred wooden zither. My heart's essence reconstituted his 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls, giving him form. He was never merely a zither spirit, but an ancient deity from the dawn of time. The celestial emperor's resonant voice echoed through the valley. Goddess Ira of the Zither has awakened sage Orion to quell the demonic uprising and end the mortal realm's drought. Having fulfilled this sacred duty, she shall henceforth be known as the heaven-mandated Zither deity, taking her place among the celestial pantheon as sovereign of mortal melodies, and be granted the luminous Zither palace in the heavenly realms. With these final words, he vanished into the boundless firmament, adorned with divine coronet. My status became ineffably exalted. My elder brother led the kneeling obeisance as the primordial deity returned to the throne, moving many elders to tears. I soared atop the divine tree and, wielding my divine authority, crushed Lyra and Ronan into dust to nourish its roots. Such treacherous and cruel souls deserve no better fate. My father shuffled forward trembling, clasping my hands. Ira, he whispered, I was wrong. Can you ever forgive me? I slowly withdrew my hand, gazing at him with detached calm. As the prime deity of the Zither divinity lineage, I exist beyond worry, fear, joy, or wrath. Forgiveness holds no meaning for my kind, but as his daughter, I shall never grant him absolution. With father's spiritual power completely drained, he could no longer serve as clan leader, so my brother succeeded to his position. I'm leaving for the celestial palace, and my brother came to see me off before my departure. His eyes welled up with tears as he sobbed like a child. Ira, don't forget about me, your brother. You and Xander must visit often. For 1,000 years, my brother has been my only source of warmth. I hugged him tightly. I promise I will, brother. Xander and I lived in perfect harmony during our time in the celestial palace. 5 centuries later, we were blessed with twins. I nodded. Story 2. The end of the world has come. My boyfriend distributed the food I had stockpiled to the neighbors, pretending that he was doing a good deed. He forced me to go out to look for supplies after we ran out of food at home. Unexpectedly, when I went to look for supplies, I encountered a large group of zombies. In order to buy time to escape, he pushed me into the group of zombies and let me be devoured. When I woke up, I found myself half a month before the zombies arrived. This time, I answered my boyfriend's call and said, let's break up. My family wants a bride price of 1 million. You're a poor guy and can't afford it. Later, when I saw him who had already turned into a zombie, I said lightly, how about dismembering the body? When I opened my eyes, I saw the worried faces of my parents. Sylvia, what's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? What was going on? Weren't my parents already out of touch? Wasn't I bitten by zombies when I was looking for supplies? Could I see my parents before I died? When I turned around, I noticed that I was in my room. I picked up my phone and saw that it was September 27th, 2030. Wasn't it 2031? Had I been reborn at this time last year? I had National Day off and went home to see my parents. I stayed at home for 5 days and then went back to my workplace half a month later. The zombie outbreak occurred. At first, I could still get in touch with my parents later, when there was no food left in my parents' house. My father made the last call to me, saying that they were going to the neighboring city to find a shelter. After that, I couldn't get in touch with them anymore. I used to have the habit of stockpiling goods. If it were just me, I could live for a long time. But my saintly boyfriend secretly distributed the food to others. After the food was eaten up, I had no choice but to go out to find supplies again and again. When I was looking for supplies, I unfortunately encountered a group of zombies. My boyfriend pushed me into the group of zombies to buy time to escape, and I was infected by the zombies and died. Coming back to my senses, my nose twitched, and I hugged my parents. Mom and Dad, I miss you so much. My mother quickly hugged me back. Oh, what's going on? Were you bullied at work? If so, come home, we can support you. Yes, if it's like that, come home, my father echoed. Let's have a meal. Your mother made your favorite braised pork. I sat at the dining table and ate ravenously. I almost burst into tears. I hadn't had a proper meal for a long time. I had the habit of stockpiling goods. Before the end of the world, my refrigerator was full, and I had several boxes of instant noodles. I didn't need to carefully calculate and save supplies at all. But when the end of the world came, my boyfriend happened to be in the apartment I rented, and then he stayed by my side. He thought the outsiders were pitiful, so he distributed more than half of the food while I was sleeping. When I questioned him, he said, Sylvia, we have food, so let's distribute some to those who don't have any. The government won't ignore us. Everything will be fine after we get through this. Look, I even received money. I'll give you half. Consider it doing a good deed. I felt dizzy at this time. What was the use of money? It was difficult to buy supplies even if you had money. Everyone didn't dare to show that they had food, but this person gave away the things I had stockpiled. When I chose Nolan, I thought this guy was kind, but now I think he's too saintly. I wanted to kick Nolan out, but he was being shameless, saying that there were zombies outside and he could help me fight them. I knew it was because he had nowhere to go. I was just a girl and couldn't drive him away, so I had no choice but to let him stay in the rented apartment. When we went out to find supplies, he pushed me into the group of zombies and let me be swallowed by them. After the meal, I seriously said to my parents, Mom and Dad, I have something serious to tell you. My friend who works in the hospital told me a piece of hearsay. There are zombies appearing in the country now. The news hasn't spread yet, but we should start stockpiling supplies just in case. My mother said, Sylvia, what nonsense are you talking about? How could there be zombies in society now? My father said, You child, is zombie meat delicious? Didn't they say that even if there were zombies in our country, they would be eaten up? What I'm saying is true. My friend even showed me a video. There was a zombie riot, and they bit people. Then those people turned into zombies. I said seriously, Mom and Dad, you must believe me. There are less than half a month left before the zombie outbreak. Of course, it was made up. If I had known some hearsay in my previous life, I would have stockpiled more goods and lived longer. Maybe I could even wait for the government's rescue. But now, to make my parents believe me, I had no choice but to make it up. My father saw that I wasn't joking and frowned. He asked, Is this news accurate? Then what should we do? Stockpile supplies. Let's go out and buy vegetables, fruits, and grains. I'll make a list for you, Mom and Dad. You must believe me. You'll know when the zombie outbreak comes. As I said this, I made a list on my phone. 1,000 gene of rice, 300 gene of flour, tomatoes, chestnuts, self-heating rice, packaged bread, chocolate, cold medicine, anti-inflammatory medicine, fever-reducing medicine, alcohol, and so on. After making the list, my mother hesitated and asked me, Sylvia, isn't this too much? We can't even finish eating all these, and if they go bad, what should we do? Besides, now that the country is peaceful and the people are safe, even if we order takeout, it will arrive soon. How could we not be able to buy things, too? After the zombie outbreak in my previous life, there were few living people on the street. Most people hid in their homes. No one dared to deliver takeout, and the restaurants had already closed. There were some people who formed teams to find supplies, but they were all brave people with skills. I said, It's okay. Didn't you always want me to come home and stay with you? I'll resign tonight, even if there are no zombies. If I open a small supermarket near home in the future, I still need to stock up on goods. Consider this as stocking up in advance. As for the storage, don't worry. I've already ordered 2 large refrigerators. I guess the master will come to install them soon. While waiting for the master, I ordered 50 solar chargers, 3 solar generators, 50 flashlights, 2,000 heating packs, 100 boxes of self-heating rice, 500 warm baby patches, 10 sets of protective clothing, and 50 boxes of sanitary napkins online. I planned to stay at home and not go out after stockpiling goods. But I still needed to prepare some protective clothing just in case, because I bought a large quantity. I bargained with the store owner and saved some money. For the rest, I planned to buy them offline. It would be cheaper in the wholesale market. After the zombie outbreak, the water and electricity would be cut off gradually. Fortunately, I still had half a month to prepare. I posted on the internet that the zombies were coming and called on everyone to stockpile supplies quickly. Some people scolded me for spreading rumors. Some people asked me where I got the news. Some people commented that I was crazy and there were no zombies in broad daylight. I sighed. If I had heard this news before the zombies came, I would have thought the same. I informed some of my good friends and told them that something big was going to happen in half a month. They should stockpile enough food and try to go out as little as possible. Just as I finished notifying them, the master arrived. After putting the refrigerators in place, I dragged my parents to the wholesale market to buy things. We bought rice, flour, cooking oil, and other things in large quantities. My mother bargained with the store owner. Finally, we agreed on the price. Since there were so many things, I asked the store owner to deliver them to the underground parking lot of the community. We went back and forth between the parking lot and home to move the things. When my parents bought this house, they were attracted by the fact that there were only 2 households on each floor. Although it was the top floor, you needed to swipe a card to go to any floor, so it was very safe. The house next door was unoccupied. My father said that the tenant of this house had just moved out not long ago. This was good. In this way, no one would ask if they saw the supplies. If people knew we had supplies during the zombie outbreak, there would be more danger. After moving all the things, I ordered a takeout so that we could rest at home. My parents were old and didn't have enough strength. Then I discussed with my parents, Mom and Dad. We've stockpiled so many things. If the zombie outbreak really happens, we need to reinforce this door, and we should also add soundproof cotton to the house. My father patted his chest and said, "Leave this to me. I know the boss in this regard. It's too late today. Let him come to install it tomorrow." "Okay, what else do you think we should prepare besides the things on my list?" I asked. More people mean more ideas. We should prepare as many things as possible. At this time, my mother said, we should also buy knives, stun guns, wrenches, kerosene, chainsaws, spiked clubs, anti-wolf spray, and surveillance cameras. We can also buy some soil and seeds and plant some vegetables. I made a decision. Okay, we'll buy these things tomorrow. It's too late today. Let's rest. Don't be too tired. Otherwise, if you sprain your waist or something, it won't be worth it. Taking my mother's advice, I remembered that we should also buy drones. I checked online and found that one drone cost more than 1,000 yuan. I bought 20 of them. If the zombies really came, the drones would be very useful, so we still needed to buy them. Zombies are sensitive to sound. With a ringtone on the drone, we can lead the zombies elsewhere. I continued to buy painkillers, alcohol, bandages, cotton swabs, gauze, anti-inflammatory medicine, cough medicine, wind oil essence, fever-reducing medicine, vitamins, and calcium tablets online. I bought everything that was available. Just as I was trying my best to think about what else to buy, Nolan called. Oh, I was too busy after being reborn and forgot to block him. I answered the phone and said, "Let's break up. My family wants a bride price of 1 million. You're a poor guy and can't afford it. Goodbye." After hanging up the phone, Nolan called again. I directly hung up and blocked him. I have nothing to say to someone like Nolan. He sold the things I had stockpiled, forcing me to go out to find supplies, and later I was bitten by zombies. If you look at it lightly, he's just kind-hearted, but if you look at it seriously, he's really disgusting. You never know when he'll sell you out. I don't want to get along with such a person for a single moment. I opened WeChat, and his messages popped up one by one. "Baby, did you see your parents when you went home today? Oh, I miss you so much. Did you tell your parents about our marriage? Baby, I'm off work. What are you doing? Why haven't you replied to my message? Baby, what's going on?" You haven't replied to my message all day. The latest message was sent to me after I blocked his number. 1 million. Is your family crazy about money? Who would ask for so much bride price and make the groom go bankrupt? Do you have someone else outside? You have to make it clear to me. I remembered that when I came back this time, I planned to discuss our marriage with my parents. At that time, I asked my parents about the bride price in our place. My parents replied, the bride price should be 168,800 yuan. It's just a gesture. We'll give Sylvia a house and 300,000 yuan as the dowry. Sylvia, since you don't like driving, we'll convert the money for buying a car into cash and give it to you. One requirement is that you should make it clear about the bride price with the man's side first. If they agree, then you can tell them about the dowry. My mother told me our family is well off. 168,800 yuan for the bride price is indeed not much. Moreover, according to the customs in our place, the bride price is usually 188,000 yuan, 208,000 yuan, or 288,000 yuan. I have no objection. In my previous life, after I went back, I told Nolan about the bride price, and he was in a difficult situation. He said that he had only worked for a few years and couldn't afford 168,800 yuan. He didn't want to be in debt because of marriage, and he didn't want his parents to use their pension money for the marriage. He wanted to rely on his own ability and asked me to wait for a few more years. I was almost laughed out of anger. I said that I was already 25 years old. Why should I wait for a few more years? Why don't I find someone better? Suddenly, he had an idea and asked me if I had saved some money. He had 60,000 yuan, and if we added my money and took out a loan of tens of thousands of yuan, we could get married. I was completely speechless. On a whim, I asked, do we have to pay back the tens of thousands of yuan we borrowed together? When he heard this, his eyes lit up. Sure, I knew Sylvia, you care about me. I broke up with him on the spot and said word by word, Sylvia, will never do the stupid thing of using my own money to marry myself. On the day of the zombie outbreak, he happened to come to my apartment to admit his mistake. I opened the door after he stood there for a long time. He said that he knew he was wrong. He would go to deliver takeout as a part-time job after work and take private orders during his break. He was working hard to make money and had lost several pounds. I felt sorry for him, so I opened the door to listen to his excuses. Just then, my friend called and said, Sylvia, there's a zombie outbreak. Are you at home? Don't go out. We quickly looked out the window and saw zombies biting pedestrians on the street. Nolan quickly patted his chest and promised, Sylvia, I can definitely protect you. Men are strong. I thought that after all, he was a human life. If we went out, we definitely wouldn't be able to survive. So I let him stay in the apartment. Who knew that I had kept a disaster? I sneered and blocked all his contact information. What a thing. He's so disgusting. The messages I sent to my friends earlier had replies. They were all asking me what the big thing was. I replied one by one, you may not believe it, but I dreamed that there would be a zombie outbreak in half a month. Then I chose my best friend Rose, who lived closest to my apartment. If you're free in the next 2 days, help me pack my skin care products, cosmetics, nutritional products, laptop, tablet, and winter clothes in my apartment, and you can take all the other things in the refrigerator that you like. I don't plan to live in that apartment anymore. Love you. Rose replied instantly. What's going on? You really don't plan to come back just because of a dream? Me, yeah, I plan to stay at home with my parents. I have a hunch that this dream is very real. You should also try to stockpile some food at home. Rose sent a laughing emoji. Okay, I don't really believe in this kind of thing. I'll help you pack when I'm free on the weekend. Me. Okay, there's a mat at the door of the apartment, and the key is underneath. After you pack and send the things back to me, you can take whatever you like. There's a lot of food in the refrigerator. Remember to take it, or it will be wasted. Rose. Okay. 3. The next day, I went to buy lottery tickets. Why didn't I buy them on the first day? Because I don't usually buy lottery tickets. I just remember that the lottery numbers for the draw on September 28th are exactly my birthday. My friends who buy lottery tickets every day called and shouted, saying that they should have bought the numbers of my birthday. I couldn't miss this opportunity. After buying the lottery tickets, we went to the supermarket to do some shopping. Each of us had a shopping cart. First, we bought the seeds of vegetables and fruits. We took whatever we wanted to eat or drink. We got 2 boxes of milk and 2 boxes of yogurt. There's no need to take too many things that are not easy to preserve. We took several boxes of various beverages. a vacuum sealer, portioning boxes, and packaging bags. 2 shopping carts were filled up. We bought potato chips, shrimp chips, biscuits, chocolate, compressed biscuits, instant noodles, canned fruits, honey, canned meat, pasta, milk powder, seasonings, pickled mustard tuber, ham, instant noodles, dried radish, soybean milk powder, oatmeal, dried sausage, and so on. Obviously, 1 shopping cart per person wasn't enough. We pulled 3 more shopping carts over. And all 6 shopping carts were full. When we checked out, the salesperson was stunned. While quickly scanning the items, she asked us, "How many people are there in your family? Why are you buying so many things?" My mother smiled and said, "That's right, isn't it National Day? More than 20 relatives are coming to visit. There are many children, so we're buying more snacks for them." The salesperson called another salesperson to help. Soon, the bill was calculated. "Hello, it's 42,547 yuan. In total, do you have a membership card?" "Yes, the card number is 138347XXXXX. After checking out, the salesperson kindly told us that the deliveryman could help us deliver the goods home, and there were more than 40,000 points in the membership card, which could be exchanged for things at the front desk. In the end, we exchanged for a rice cooker, an air fryer, and several packs of dried noodles. We asked the deliveryman to push them to the parking lot and load them into the car. The trunk was piled high, and some things were directly placed on the back seat. I barely squeezed in and took a seat. My parents sat in the front. Just like yesterday, we parked in the underground parking lot of the community and moved the things. After moving the things, we put the things we bought yesterday and the various foods we bought today in the refrigerator and the kitchen cabinets. By the time we finished, it was almost noon. We waited for a while, and the workers who were going to install the fortified door and the soundproof cotton came. My father chose the sturdiest bulletproof door and paid extra money to ask them to rush the installation. With the money in place, everything was easy to handle. The installation was completed in 1 day. In the evening, I stared at the TV screen. When the last number was announced, it was exactly the same as the numbers on my lottery ticket. I let out a long breath. I could hardly stand still, and my hands were shaking. I shouted, "Mom, Mom, I won the lottery." "Huh, what kind of lottery did you win? Why are you so excited?" "Don't always learn from your father. He's been buying lottery tickets for so long and has never won anything." My mother came out of the room and nagged. I was so excited that I stuttered, "No, it's not. I got 80 million yuan after tax." 80 million yuan. My father rushed out of the study directly. "What? I've been buying lottery tickets for so many years and have only won 50 yuan at most." The 3 of us looked at the lottery ticket over and over again. Finally, we put it away with silly smiles. On the 3rd day, I went to claim the prize wearing a mask and sunglasses. After deducting the tax, I saw the number on the bank card and couldn't stop smiling. I immediately asked the real estate agent to check if the house next door was listed for sale. It really was, and the price was 6 million yuan. I directly asked the agent to contact the seller. After negotiating the price, I bought it with a lump sum payment and paid extra money to expedite the transfer of ownership. In less than 3 days, the key to the house next door was in my hands. I directly changed the door lock, did some simple decoration, and installed cameras on the ceiling to create the illusion that someone was living there. If someone came, they would check the house next door first. Considering that I could buy more supplies with the money, I asked the decoration team to open a door between my house and the next door. I put a wardrobe to block it, so I could go in and out of the next door without opening the door. Then I quickly bought 10 times the amount of the things I bought online before. I bought whatever I liked. I bought all the things I had taken a fancy to regardless of the price. I went to the vegetable market to buy meat and vegetables. My mother told the butcher that we were buying a large quantity and asked for a wholesale price. The boss agreed. Then my mother directed the boss to cut the spare ribs into pieces, slice the streaky pork and the tenderloin, cut the fat into small pieces, and cut the zhongmei, a kind of pork, into large pieces, and cut the lean meat into strips. I was stunned and took a short video to send to my friend in the north. I asked her, "Can the vegetable market in your north help cut the meat?" She, "No way. The boss would probably chop me with a knife." Me, "Wow." I borrowed a cart from the management office of the vegetable market and loaded nearly 500 gene of pork onto the cart. My parents turned to buy beef and beef offal. They still directed the boss to cut the meat into thin slices, pieces, and strips. We bought nearly 500 Gene of each. When I saw that there were mutton, chicken, and duck for sale in the vegetable market, I simply bought 500 Gene of each. I wasn't idle either. I went to the seafood area and bargained in the same way. I bought 200 Gene of fish and shrimp and asked the boss to clean the fish. I tried to buy vegetables that could be stored for a long time, such as green peppers, hot peppers, potatoes, radishes, Chinese cabbages, sweet potatoes, taros, onions, pumpkins, wax gourds, eggplants, scallions, mushrooms, black fungus, and so on. I estimated that there were about 500 Gene of vegetables of all sizes. I even bought about 100 Gene of eggs and quail eggs each. On the way, I passed an electrical appliance store and bought 5 large freezers and asked them to deliver them to my home. There were 4 rooms in the house. One was for my parents to sleep in, one was for me, one was a study, and one was a storage room. After putting 2 freezers in the storage room, we went to the underground parking lot to move the things. We were all exhausted after moving the things home. After taking a rest, I asked my parents to continue resting, and I took out the vacuum sealer and started portioning the meat and labeling it. I would open 1 bag for each meal. There was no need to defrost the meat repeatedly because it was frozen together, and it could also avoid oxidation. My parents came to help. After they had a good rest, it was a big project, and it took us a day. I received the express delivery from Rose. She told me that she had emptied the snacks and the refrigerator in my apartment. I said, "Friend, you'll be grateful for the food in this refrigerator. I advise you to stockpile things as soon as possible." "Rose, I know, I'm not like you. You resigned and are idle at home. I'm a poor worker who goes to work every day to make money. I don't have time to go to the supermarket. I've already bought some rice and noodles online and stockpiled them." I felt relieved. I calmly received the express deliveries one after another in the last few days. I went out to have a big meal with my parents and went shopping. I thought the food in several restaurants was very delicious, so I packed a lot of cooked dishes and put them in the refrigerator. During this period, after I blocked Nolan, he called me with his brother's phone. I blocked and deleted all his friends. If I had any more connection with this jerk after being reborn, I would be stupid. For 2 days before the zombie outbreak, we stopped going out and waited for news at home. Finally, on the day of the zombie outbreak, my mother woke me up and said, "Sylvia, watch TV quickly." On the TV, it was reporting that pedestrians were being bitten by zombies covered in mottled blood. When the zombies heard the sound, they raised their heads and looked at the camera. They dropped the people they were biting and walked towards the camera. The person who was filming screamed and ran away. The reporter was still reporting with all his might, but the next second, he was knocked down by his mutated colleague. I opened Weibo, and the hashtags such as people biting each other, zombie outbreak, mentally ill people biting others, infectious virus, and zombies were all on the trending list. The zombie tide broke out, and the end of the world was coming. My phone kept ringing. Some people thanked me for the reminder a few days ago. Some people regretted not stockpiling more food. Some people asked me what to do. I only lived for less than a year, and the end of the world hadn't ended before I died. I just reminded them to connect more water and stay at home and not go out. After I finished the call, my mother hugged me tremblingly. "Sylvia, the zombies really broke out. Fortunately, you're still by our side." My nose twitched, and I hugged her back. "Me too. The supplies we stockpiled are enough for us to eat for a long time. Let's stay at home and wait for the rescue." In my previous life, losing contact with my parents was always a pain in my heart. I had been anxiously stockpiling supplies, until now, when the end of the world broke out and I was still with my parents. My heart finally settled down. Even if the world is turned upside down, we're still together. After winning the lottery, I had already replaced the window glass at home with bulletproof glass. I bought all kinds of self-defense supplies and removed the fire door on this floor, reinforced it, and changed the lock. Even if zombies came up to the 17th floor along the stairs, they couldn't get in. Of course, people couldn't get in either, and we didn't need anyone to come in. 3 days later, the power was cut off. We used the solar generator to maintain our daily electricity consumption. We had meals as usual at home and watched the TV shows downloaded on the iPad. My parents had the habit of taking a walk after meals. We blocked the fire escape and the elevator on this floor with heavy furniture. The zombies couldn't get in, and neither could people. It was very safe. I directly let them take a walk in the corridor. I watched in front of the monitor and would call them back immediately if there was any trouble. I was watching the drama with great interest when Rose's message popped up. Sylvia, do you remember that self-service beef offal restaurant we didn't get to eat at before? I thought for a while. The beef offal restaurant, the one we didn't get to eat at more than a month before the zombie outbreak. Yes, that's the one. That beef offal restaurant had a lot of internet celebrity promotions. After it became popular overnight, Rose and I followed the trend and wanted to eat there. Since it was a self-service restaurant, we saved our appetites early and waited, but it was so popular that when we arrived, all the seats were taken, and we had to wait in line. We took a queue number. There were still 40 people in front of us. The boss's daughter said bluntly that she couldn't guarantee when it would be our turn. We could go to the milk tea shop on the left and have a cup of milk tea while waiting. I looked at the milk tea shop on the left. The place was too small, and we would be sitting inside, so we went to the spacious milk tea shop on the right. We ordered milk tea and played games while waiting. During the waiting process, we heard other customers say that the milk tea shop on the left had a cooperation with the beef offal restaurant, because we were sitting in the milk tea shop on the right. They wouldn't make up for the missed number. At that time, we didn't pay attention. When it was almost our turn, we focused on listening to the queue number. When our number was called, we rushed over. As soon as we arrived, the next number was called. We handed over the queue number, and the boss's daughter said angrily, "You missed your turn." Next, I said that it was just a few seconds late. We had been waiting for 3 hours. Could they make up for the number? As a result, she scolded us. "Didn't I tell you that we don't make up for missed numbers? You were sitting so far away that you couldn't hear the call. It's the next one." I was stunned. My anger flared up. "We came as soon as our number was called. When you started calling the next number, I showed you the queue number." She said, "You missed your turn. If you cut in line, others will also cut in line. How can we do business like this?" I was so angry that I was shaking, and my voice grew louder. "If you really don't believe it, go check the surveillance and see if I came when my number was called. We're already here, and you're saying we were too far away just because we didn't drink milk tea at the designated milk tea shop." She glanced at me and threw out a sentence. "You're crazy." After this commotion, we didn't want to eat there anymore, so we went to another restaurant. While having a meal, Rose complained, "I've never seen a store doing business like this. I hope this store goes out of business soon." Coming back to my senses from the memory, I found that Rose had sent me a video. I clicked it open. The video was taken with a zoom, and it was a bit blurry, but it didn't stop me from seeing clearly. The boss's wife of the beef offal restaurant was wailing in the store. Zombies are sensitive to sound, and soon a large number of zombies were attracted. She hurriedly covered her mouth and held the door, but there were too many zombies, and she couldn't hold the door and was bitten to death. Rose sent a voice message. This was sent to me by my friend who lives in the community opposite the beef offal restaurant. The boss's family all live in that community. Someone in the group asked if they could sell some beef offal to them because they had no more stored food. The boss's daughter directly said impatiently that she couldn't sell it. All the food was in the store, and she gloated, saying that she had rice and vegetables at home and would eat them herself, and it was impossible to sell them to others. This reminded these people. They quietly went there when it was dark. Fortunately, they didn't encounter zombies and moved some of the food in the store. When the boss's daughter found out, she was so angry that she cursed in the group. She also wanted to go with the boss to move the things back when it was dark, but they didn't come back all night. The boss's wife wanted to go out and look for them. As a result, she saw the remnants of her husband and daughter in the beef offal restaurant and wailed. Then she was bitten by zombies. After someone recorded a video and sent it to the group, a few people pried open the door of her house. After confirming that there was no one at home, they took all the food they could find. I listened with great interest and summarized with Rose that we should not reveal that we have supplies, not take the lead, and not go out. After all, for me, it was just the death of someone I didn't like, and there was nothing to feel sorry about. I could only use it as a warning not to reveal that we have supplies. Anyway, I have reminded all the friends I should remind. In my previous life, Rose was bitten by zombies on the way back from work on the first day of the zombie outbreak. I asked Rose to go to my house to pick up things and send them by express. The main purpose was to let Rose take the supplies. Even if she didn't believe my dream, it could ensure that she survived. But she is also someone who listens to advice. She said she didn't have time to buy things, but she spent most of her savings on buying supplies online, and my 2 houses, each over 200 square meters, are stuffed with supplies. which is enough for us to live for more than 10 years. We can live our lives in peace and not cause any trouble. I don't believe that. I can't wait for the zombies to be eliminated in 10 years. 6. It gets dark before 7 o'clock in the evening here. Once the power is out, we pull up the blackout curtains in the room. They are specially customized, and no light can get out. On the 20th day of the zombie outbreak, the network hasn't collapsed yet, but the power hasn't been restored, and few people are speaking in the homeowners group. The country sent planes to drop supplies, but there are too many people and too few supplies. Moreover, there are zombies wandering inside and outside the community. Some people saw the dropped supplies and went to grab them. Those who were lucky enough to avoid the zombies could come back. Those who were unlucky were bitten by zombies and turned into zombies to bite the next person. I saw someone carefully making their way to the edge of the supply package. They picked up a large package of supplies and wanted to run back, but they were knocked down by suddenly emerging zombies at a corner and let out a shrill scream. I also saw a woman grab the last package of supplies, but a man snatched it away. When the woman finally caught up with him and tried to take it back, the zombies caught up during the struggle. No matter how hard the man kicked the woman, she held onto his pants leg desperately. A few seconds later, both of them were overwhelmed by the zombies. If you can't get supplies, you'll be hungry, and if you're hungry, you'll die. At this time, food is more important than human life. On the 40th day of the zombie outbreak, the water supply was cut off. We started saving water. The water for washing rice was used to wash vegetables, and the water for washing vegetables was used to mop the floor and flush the toilet. Most people had no more food, and many people chose to go out to find supplies. There were remnants of limbs everywhere in the community, and the number of zombies increased. There are zombies in the underground parking lot, and ordinary people don't dare to drive, but some families have electric scooters. I saw a boy carrying an empty backpack and driving a scooter to deftly avoid the zombies and leave the community. When it was almost evening, I saw him barely avoid the zombies and come back. I quietly checked with a drone. There are probably only 7 or 8 households of living people in our building. It will be even harder to live without water. In a while, there may only be the 3 of us left in this building. As for the garbage we produce, when there was water, we used the kitchen garbage disposer to deal with the garbage. Now we separate the dry and wet garbage. We save the garbage that must be thrown away for 2 or 3 days, and in the early morning, I secretly fly the drone to throw it away in a distant place. By the way, I take a look at the city. So far, the city is still surrounded by zombies. The once prosperous streets are now only filled with wandering zombies. On the 90th day of the zombie outbreak, it has been a month, and it rained in the morning. My mother said, "Let's eat dumplings today. It's getting cold, and hot dumplings can warm our stomachs." So we got busy. Some of us mixed the stuffing, and some of us kneaded the dough. I turned on my phone and started watching a TV drama while working. Suddenly, a message popped up. Someone claiming to be from the government established a shelter in the neighboring city, which can protect everyone from being bitten by zombies. They called on everyone to go there with their families and supplies, and each person needed to pay 20 jin of rice as a fee. Something flashed through my mind. I asked my parents to show me their phones. They all received this message, and the day when my parents lost contact in my previous life was not long after receiving this message. This shelter may not be a real shelter. In my previous life, my parents may have lost contact because of this shelter. I said, "We have a lot of stored supplies, so we don't need to care about this." My parents nodded in agreement. 7. After the dumplings were cooked, the steaming fresh meat dumplings made me have a good appetite, and I ate a lot because I was greedy. I felt uncomfortable because I was too full after the meal, and I couldn't fall asleep at night. I got up and moved around. As usual, I hung the garbage on the drone and flew it to a distant place. I found this place some time ago. It's 7 or 8 kilometers away from home, and there are few zombies. After throwing away the garbage, just as I was about to control the drone to fly away, I saw a boy about 10 years old rush out and pick up the garbage, searching for any leftover food. Since we ate dumplings tonight, there were only some boiled and rotten dumpling wrappers left. There were also the apple peels that were peeled off when we ate apples yesterday. The apple peels had a smell after being left for a day, except for these 2 things that added up to less than 100 grams. The rest were inedible, but the little boy's eyes lit up when he saw them, and he stuffed them into his mouth, after eating quickly. He was stunned for a moment when he saw that the drone hadn't left and bowed in the direction of the drone. When the drone came back after flying around, I sighed. In this situation, Everyone is in danger. What can I do? After a day, when I controlled the drone to throw away the garbage again, I put a sesame cake and a bottle of water in the garbage bag. I found that the child had been waiting for a long time. As soon as the garbage was thrown on the ground, the little boy rushed out and searched through it. The moment he saw the sesame cake, he hesitated and pointed at the sesame cake with the drone, and then pointed at himself. I understood what he meant. I said, "It's for you, eat it." He happily picked up the sesame cake and wolfed it down. I waited quietly for him to finish eating, then I controlled the drone to go back. After doing this several times, I basically threw away the garbage once a day. I separated the food for the little boy in a separate bag in the garbage bag. Gradually, I got familiar with the little boy. His name is Silas. I asked him, "Why haven't you been eaten by zombies?" He said, "Sister, there are few zombies here. They generally don't wander around here." I asked, "What about the people around you? Why are you the only one here?" Silas's eyes darkened. "I'm an orphan, I have no relatives and have been living by begging. I live in the garbage dump." One day when I woke up, all the people on the street had turned into zombies. I kept praying in my heart that the zombies wouldn't come near. I don't know why, but there have been no zombies around here. I frowned. I asked again, "Who gave you this name?" He looked blank. "I don't remember. I've been called this since I can remember. I didn't hear this name in my previous life, because the zombie tide would besiege the city soon." I reminded him, "You'd better find a tall building to live in. The lower floors are not safe. My house is on a high floor, but I don't dare to expose my location to save a person I've only met a few times." Silas listened to my words and moved to a tall building not far away. I'm not sure if he can survive after the zombie tide. As the zombie tide was approaching, I tried to stuff the garbage bag as full as possible. Every time I threw away the garbage, I gave him enough food to last for half a month, and I told him, "These days are not peaceful. I won't send out the garbage anymore. Don't go out to look for food unless it's urgent." He pursed his lips and nodded seriously. 8. We stopped cooking at home. We only ate dry food and drank water every day. We lived in fear for a week. The zombie tide still didn't come. I was a bit confused. This is the time when I died in my previous life. I can't be wrong. Why is there a change? Another week passed. The zombie tide still didn't come. There was a lot of garbage piled up at home. I used the drone to take it out. By the way, I checked if Silas was okay. He was still living in the tall building, but the situation was not good. He was lying in bed, motionless, when he heard the sound of the drone. He barely opened his eyes and said hoarsely, "Sister, I seem to have a fever. Do you have any medicine?" I quickly controlled the drone to go back and bring medicine. He propped himself up, took the fever-reducing medicine, and fell asleep in a daze. I said, "I'll come to see you earlier tomorrow. You can go to sleep now." The next day, I controlled the drone to bring him a bag of food before evening. He seemed much better. He said, "Sister, I seem to be able to control the zombies." My hand controlling the drone trembled violently. What? He told me what had happened. Recently, he listened to my words and stayed at home honestly for a week, but it was calm, and because he was young and couldn't stay still, he went out for a stroll. He saw a very beautiful butterfly and wanted to catch it to accompany him. As a result, he unconsciously ran a bit far. He met a few zombies walking towards him. They were covered in blood and in a mess. Anyone would be scared when they saw the zombies. He was no exception. He was so scared that he screamed and shouted for them not to come. As a result, those zombies really stood still. He realized something and asked them to turn around. The zombies obediently turned around. Later, he tried to ask the zombies to carry things, run, and catch mice. The zombies did as they were told. The zombies even found a bicycle according to his instructions and rode it back for him. After he found that he didn't need to be afraid of the zombies, he went out to play crazily every day. He played too tired, and he started to have a fever in the middle of the night. Before I came to see him, he had been having a fever for a day and night. Fortunately, I brought him medicine. I thought thoughtfully, Silas has me feeding him in this life, so he didn't starve to death. Most likely, in my previous life, he starved to death, and the zombies sensed it. The zombie tide broke out. In this life, he is still alive, so there is no zombie tide. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, I was afraid that Silas didn't have anything to eat, so I came to see him. Otherwise, if he was seriously ill and died, would the zombie tide break out? After Silas recovered, I asked him to show me how to control the zombies again. I found that the zombies really listened to his instructions as he said. I struggled for a long time and asked Silas if he wanted to go to the capital. He opened his big eyes and asked me, Why, sister, is there anything fun there? There are heads of state there. What you can do is a big deal. It may be related to the future of humanity. I can't make the decision alone. Moreover, if human civilization is restored, you can go to school like a normal child and live a life without worry about food and clothing, instead of waiting for my drone to come and talk to you every day, which is not good for your physical and mental development. Of course, the choice is yours. After all, I'm afraid they will experiment on your body. I hand you over to the country, but I can't protect you, sister. You have stocked up a lot of supplies. Why do you still want the civilization to be restored? Of course, I spent a lot of money on the supplies, and my home is fully equipped. I can live at home for 10 years without any problem, but you're only 10 years old. You still have a bright future. You can go to see the flowers and the sea, go to school, play with your peers, and feel the beauty of the world. This is my wish for your future. Silas thought for a while and asked, then sister, will you go with me? I said, of course, you're a child and can't drive. Silas made up his mind, I'll go. I started to prepare the supplies for the trip. I asked my parents to stay at home, of course. They opposed it. I patiently persuaded them. There won't be any accidents. You just stay at home and wait for me. I'll send you messages to let you know I'm safe every day. But the capital is so far away from here. My mother took my hand and said with a worried look, can't we ask someone to pick him up? I said softly to her, Mom, just like you're worried about me, I'm also worried about him being alone. His situation is special. If there are people with bad intentions among those who come to pick him up, then none of us will be able to survive. In the apocalypse, people's hearts are the least trustworthy. In case someone uses him as a hostage and makes him command the zombies to do things that are harmful to the country, the consequences are beyond our imagination. My parents were silent. In the end, they helped me pack my luggage. They also prepared dry food and boxed meals for my journey. I let out a sigh of relief and made an appointment with Silas for the departure time, and I contacted the person in charge of the army online. 3 days later, on a sunny day, we set off. The trunk was stuffed with supplies. There were 3 strong zombies sitting in the back seat. To prevent encountering people who would try to rob our supplies on the way, these 3 zombies could also act as thugs. The road was full of broken limbs, except for the zombies. Few people came out on the street. We occasionally met 1 or 2 teens. When they saw our car, they tried to rob us, but they were either scared away or dealt with by the zombies in the back seat. I was the only one driving. When I was tired, I would rest on the spot. When we passed a gas station, I took all the fuel that I could. On the way, we unexpectedly met Nolan, who had already turned into a zombie. His clothes were in tatters, and he had a broken arm. He couldn't even rob the zombies of the meat. He was pushed to the ground. He made strange angry sounds. It was expected that he had turned into a zombie. In the apocalypse, those who are overly benevolent are the first to be killed. For someone like him who was overly benevolent, the only possible outcomes after distributing the food were being infected or dying. I happily poked Silas and said, look, my ex-boyfriend who was overly benevolent has turned into a zombie. Ah, does he have a feud with you, sister? Why do you look so happy? A big feud. I itched to kill him. He looked for a while and asked me seriously, how about I control the zombies to dismember him? I clapped my hands and said, okay, let's dismember him. The zombies swarmed up. When they dispersed, there were only his separated body parts on the ground. I just took a glance and drove away. After a bumpy journey for half a month, we finally arrived at the capital. I asked Silas to let the zombies out of the car and follow us from a distance. I drove to the army according to the address. Someone came out to greet us. The person in charge had been waiting for a long time. After Silas showed his ability as they requested, their eyes lit up. I protectively stood in front of Silas and reminded them coldly, if anything happens to him, no one will be able to control the zombies, and there will be no turning back in this apocalypse. The person in charge came to his senses and warmly entertained us. Please have a seat. I'll report to my superiors immediately. Please wait here for a while. After a while, the person in charge came back. We have reported to our superiors. We will arrange for you to stay first. Then we will make a special plan according to Silas's special ability. We may need Silas to cooperate. I looked at Silas, and he nodded gently. I said, we have no objections and will try our best to cooperate. Just like that, we settled down in the capital. Silas went out early and came back late with the army every day. He was in good spirits. He would come back every day and chatter about the things he encountered outside. Most of the time, he controlled the zombies to gather in one direction and stay still, and then the army would clean them up uniformly, avoiding the situation where zombies would suddenly rush out from corners and hurt people. My boyfriend pushed me into the group of zombies to buy time to escape, which led to me being infected by the zombies and dying. As he was talking, he leaned his head on my shoulder and said, "Sister, I'm so tired, but I think I'm doing something very meaningful. I'm saving the world." Slowly, he fell asleep. I whispered, "Yes, you are doing something very meaningful." 10 such days lasted for 2 years. In these 2 years, with Silas's assistance, the zombies were gradually disappearing. Many places such as the streets, shopping malls, hospitals, and schools were gradually recovering. I brought my parents to the capital. I donated a part of the supplies to the country. During the recovery period, there was still a shortage of food. The prices outside were 5 or 10 times higher. I seized the opportunity and sold the remaining supplies at 2 or 3 times the price. On the day when the zombies completely disappeared, the country gave Silas a huge reward. When Silas came home, he excitedly shouted at me, "Sister, sister, the world is at peace." They rewarded me with 50 million yuan, a first-class merit, and 2 houses in the capital. I smiled and asked, "Then, little hero, do you want to go out and play?" "Okay, let's go out and play." Silas nodded repeatedly and said excitedly. I said, "All right, school will start in a month. We'll play for half a month, and I'll give you some tutoring in the remaining half month before you go to school next month." He wailed, "What, really? Even heroes have to go to school?" "Yes, even heroes need to go to school." Story 2. I thought I was going to be erased after failing the mission. The next second, a system alert popped up. Mission failure penalty. Zombie apocalypse mode will soon be activated. At the wedding, my fiancé let go of my hand and ran straight towards my best friend. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Aria's arrival at the wedding took everyone by surprise. Oscar was so stunned by her appearance that he couldn't help but walk towards her. I grabbed his sleeve. "Oscar, you're my groom. What am I supposed to do if you leave now?" Oscar looked at me with difficulty. "Blair, you know I can't let her go." He slowly removed my fingers from his sleeve and ran towards Arya without looking back, embracing her tightly. The guests were instantly abuzz, and in this farce, I was the complete joke. A voice from the brain system chimed in, "Mission to win over Oscar failed. Mission failed." I let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, I was going to be erased to win Oscar over. I had demeaned myself to the core, so much so that in my midnight dreams I wished I could strangle him. This damned mission was finally over. Before I could comfort myself, the system spoke again. "Ultimate penalty, zombie apocalypse mode will soon be activated." Then, a countdown appeared in my mind. 50000 for 59. Is this supposed to be a punishment? This feels more like a reward. I fiercely raised my head to look forward. That despicable couple was still clinging to each other. Arya held Oscar and smirked at me triumphantly. "Oh," provoking me, I composed my expression and flipped her the middle finger. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Then whispers began. "Blair is losing her cool. Tisk, tisk. She's just unlucky. Arya is a rich girl who studied abroad. How can Blair, who started from scratch as a small gym owner, compete with her?" Exactly. Look at her robust physique covered in scars. How can she compare to the fair and beautiful Arya? She's an orphan, and it hasn't been easy for her to get where she is. The mistake was falling for Oscar. I rolled my eyes and yanked off the veil on my head, grabbing my wedding dress. I ran outside. There was no time to waste on them any longer. It took me 10 minutes to change my clothes and run out of the hotel. I hailed a taxi and headed straight home. I asked the system, "Don't I have any cheats?" System, "No, me, system. However, the points you've earned in this world can be exchanged for items in the points shop." Suddenly, a virtual shopping interface popped up in my mind. I glanced at the balance in the top right corner. $9.99. That's quite a lot, but the prices on the item page started in the thousands. I was annoyed. The cheapest item was a 10 square meter portable storage space for 1,000 points. I tried to negotiate with the system. "Can I buy it on credit?" System, "No credit, but exchanges are possible." Curious, I asked, "What kind of exchanges?" System, "Any of the 5 senses, emotions, desires, all are acceptable." Me, "Okay." System, "No." 8. System, smiling, I said, "Can I exchange my precious compassion and 999 points for this storage space?" system, of course. The moment I clicked to confirm the purchase, I felt slightly dizzy. When I came to, I could faintly feel a small space in the corner of my mind. I reached into my bag, grasped the car keys, and with a thought, the keys vanished from my hand. And at the same time, a key suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the space. Floating up and down, too, I ordered a bunch of stuff online for same city delivery, making a special request for them to hurry up with the delivery. Upon returning to my residential complex, I didn't go straight home. First, I visited a nearby renovation company to have someone reinforce all the doors and windows at my place. Then I headed straight to the garage, drove out my big Jeep, and went to the nearby supermarket. At that moment, the countdown in my mind showed. For 2019, I spent half an hour in the supermarket, stocking up on a large amount of supplies. The supermarket staff delivered the items to the garage and helped load them into my car. After they left, I touched the supplies in the car, and in just a moment, they filled half of the mental space in my mind. Without delay, I drove around and raided a fruit shop, a clothing store, and a hardware store on the next street. Finally, when I passed by a sword collection museum, a Tang Dynasty sword in the display case caught my eye. "Boss, how much for this Tang sword?" The boss sized me up and said, "This Tang sword is a fine piece and it's been sharpened. It's not for sale, just for display." Sharpened, that's just perfect. I negotiated with him. "I really like it. Could you please name a price?" The boss sneered and kept silent. I slapped my card on the table. 10,000, will you sell it or not? Having struggled in Kyoto for so many years, I had managed to save up a bit. The boss's expression changed instantly. "Seeing as you're interested, it would be the sword's good fortune." Tang sword +1. I also picked out a few other styles of swords to purchase. Without exception, all were sharpened. The assortment of items filled the remaining half of the space in my mind. When I got home after my shopping spree, the countdown read 2:10:06. The items I had ordered online had also arrived. I moved them into the storage room. Then, I casually changed the password of the electronic door lock and called Oscar. "I'm giving you an hour to clear out the trash you left in my house." Oscar was clearly not pleased. "Blair, can't you speak nicely?" "Me, idiot, Oscar, comma. Me, if you're late, I'll handle it myself." I hung up the phone. The renovation company's workers had already come early to start reinforcing the doors and windows, although it was a bit tough to ask them to get everything done in 3 hours without prior appointment. But money talks. Doubling the payment got a crowd of people eager to work. 20 minutes later, Oscar arrived. I said, "Hurry up and clean up this mess. It's an eyesore." Oscar's expression was grim. "I owe you an apology today, but don't you think this is a bit much?" I really didn't want to waste any more time talking to him. I threw his stuff right out. "Ah," a woman's cry of pain came from outside. I raised an eyebrow. Oscar rushed out anxiously. "Aria, what happened?" I had thrown the stuff too hard, and it all hit her." They both looked up at me. Oscar indignantly said, "Blair, how could you become like this? Aria feels guilty too. She came here to apologize to you, but you treated her so rudely." I raised my hand. "Sorry about that." Under the angry gaze of Oscar and Aria, I slammed the door shut. Oscar rushed to try the password lock. Beep beep beep. Incorrect password. Beep beep beep. Incorrect password. Before the workers left, I had them change the door lock to a traditional key lock, mainly to prepare for potential power outages after the apocalypse. As they left my home smiling with their hefty pay, I glanced at the countdown. 00, 30, 20, just half an hour left. I looked at the fully stocked storage room and the space, and felt a sudden surge of security. I stood on the balcony and looked up at the sky. The sunny weather from the morning was nowhere in sight. At that moment, the sun was obscured by a blanket of gray clouds. The wind rustled the trees along the roadside. People wrapped themselves up and hurried home, warning of an impending downpour. I retrieved a high-definition telescope from storage. Through it, I saw Oscar and Aria still standing in the park. Aria was crying with her head bowed. Oscar crouched in front of her, gently consoling her. I shifted my gaze elsewhere, and soon, my attention was caught by a bus at the end of the road. It was swerving erratically before it finally crashed into a parked sedan. The sudden crash startled the bystanders who quickly surrounded the scene, demanding the bus driver to come out and explain. More and more people gathered, and eventually, even the traffic police arrived. I checked the countdown timer, 00:08:11. Something about that bus felt off. The owner of the sedan, a burly man with a temper, made his way through the crowd and began pounding on the bus windows. cursing loudly, countdown, 000305. After hammering at the door for a while, he suddenly stopped. Those gathered by the door instinctively stepped back. The bus door opened. A frail man stepped out, his eyes unfocused and his face ashen. Through my telescope, I could see a web-like black pattern on his neck. He staggered towards the crowd, countdown, 000102. The sedan owner said a few words, but the man did not respond. Losing his temper, he shoved the man to the ground and started cursing loudly at him. Countdown, 000025. My heart pounded with each passing second of the countdown. I kept my eyes fixed on the scene. Countdown, 000002. The man on the ground convulsed and then abruptly rose in a twisted, horrifying motion. Countdown, 000000. He lunged at the sedan owner who had been cursing him and bit off one of his fingers. The onlookers panicked and scattered in agony. The sedan owner writhed on the ground. Before he could get up, the man was on him again, biting into his neck. Meanwhile, the doors of the bus stood wide open, and more people staggered out, men, women, the elderly, and children, all bearing the same black markings on their necks. As I watched, a chill ran down my spine. System, apocalypse mode has begun. Please strive to survive. Within just half an hour, the whole street was in chaos. Those initially bitten developed black patterns on their necks within minutes and began biting others in a daze. The infection spread rapidly, sending people into a panicked flight toward their homes. Oscar and Aria, hearing screams, left the park only to see a crowd scrambling towards them. Confused, Oscar instinctively stopped one person. What happened? Why are you running? The person pushed past him. Monsters, monsters. Still puzzled, Aria, trembling, tugged at his arm. Look, what is that? They looked up just in time to see someone hit by an out-of-control truck and land not far from them. The person lay bloodied on the ground, their head almost severed. Logically, they should have died instantly, but what happened next froze their blood. The mangled person made a strange noise from their throat, then suddenly jerked upright, their head still hanging from their neck. Aria screamed, hiding behind Oscar. Her scream caught the creature's attention. It slowly turned their way, then, with limbs contorted, charged at them. Oscar quickly grabbed Aria's hand and they ran towards the residential area. Watching their figures sprinting towards me, I frowned. Oh no, the chaos in the apartment building started shortly after. Some residents ran back to take refuge, and some outsiders followed them in. But what made things worse was that zombies were following them. I hid behind the door with a katana, looking through the peephole. 10 minutes later, sure enough, Oscar and Aria's big faces appeared at the door. Blair, open the door quickly. Blair, there are monsters outside. Let us in first. I knew exactly what they were like. How could I possibly let the wolf into the house? Seeing that I remained silent and did not open the door, Oscar got anxious and started banging on the door forcefully. My newly reinforced door was quite sturdy and didn't budge. Aria was both shocked and scared. Oscar, I think I heard the monsters scream. They're coming up. During this exchange, the man living opposite me also ran back from outside. He took out his keys, his hands trembling several times before he managed to open the door. Just as he pushed the door open, a strange man and woman squeezed in with him. He frowned but didn't have time to say much and hurriedly closed the door. Through the peephole, I saw Oscar and Aria enter the opposite apartment. Almost the moment they closed the door, 3 to 5 zombies surged up at the stairwell entrance. They roared and rushed a few steps in this direction, but then, not finding any living people, their movements gradually slowed down, and they began to wander aimlessly in the corridor. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned back to the balcony. In just that short time, there were almost no signs of living people on the streets anymore. I took out my phone and checked it. The news online was growing wildly. Monsters like these were appearing not just on my street but everywhere. They bite on sight, don't feel pain, and those bitten by them turn into the same kind of monsters within 3 minutes. This disaster was spreading at an unimaginable speed. This is the end of the world. This is the end of the world. What should I do? My mother is still outside. Where on earth did these damn monsters come from? Where are the police? The military? Isn't anyone in charge? Help, we're trapped in the office and can't get out. Is there anyone who can save us? I slowly closed my phone. Any slight hope and secret pleasure I had were gone at this moment. I looked at the chaotic world and, unusually, felt a bit lost. That evening, the citywide broadcast started. Currently, a wide-ranging outbreak of an unknown virus has occurred in many places. Please do not go out, it said. Experts are conducting in-depth research on the virus and believe that a solution will be found soon. Let us trust the authorities. Most households have some food stored, so surviving 3 or 4 days wouldn't be a problem. But 3 days passed, and the spread of the virus was not slowing down but intensifying every night. The sound of zombies walking around in the corridors could be heard, occasionally emitting a few spine-chilling roars. Under such conditions, people could hardly sleep. With food becoming scarcer, people gradually fell into deeper panic. Finally, someone couldn't bear it anymore and opened the main door. I'm going to fight it out with you. As you can imagine, he quickly became a new member of the zombie horde. Some people in despair turned savage, like my neighbor across the hall. On the 4th night, I heard a woman's scream coming from across the hall. It was Aria's voice. What are you doing? Let go of me. Following that was a male voice. My neighbor Gavin. Damn it, you've been freeloading off me for so many days. Letting me have a good time isn't too much to ask, right? Oscar was both shocked and angry. We gave you money, don't touch her. Gavin spat. What's the use of money now, bro? Your girlfriend is so pretty, it's a bit unfair for you to enjoy her all by yourself. Listening from across the hall, my scalp tingled. Normally, Gavin and I just greeted each other when we saw each other. He seemed polite. I never thought he was this kind of person. The cursing from across the hall continued for a long time. The zombies in the corridor were all attracted over. I know where there's food. Aria's voice was sharp and piercing, sounding somewhat shrill. A bad premonition suddenly rose in my heart. Sure enough, the next second, your neighbor Blair, she likes to stock up, and on the day of the incident, she went to the supermarket and bought a lot of supplies. My friends saw her at the supermarket and even took a photo for me. I showed you, she really does have a lot of supplies, I said. Gavin looked skeptical. Really? That woman has hidden so much good stuff. I just sighed. Damn it. 5. Suddenly, it became quiet on the other side. I paced back and forth, anxious. I should never have called Oscar and Aria here. Now, I've just made trouble for myself. What should I do, given the situation? Gavin would surely consider Aria's suggestion. They might decide in less than half an hour how to fight over the supplies in my house. Need to take the initiative. As time ticked by, I looked at the tang knife in my hand and finally made up my mind. In this apocalyptic world, only the strong have the right to speak. After the silence, zombies began wandering around again. I put on a thick jacket, gloves, and used tape to tightly cover any exposed skin. Listening to the faint footsteps outside the door, I took a few deep breaths. When the footsteps faded a bit, I quietly unlocked the door. The corridor lights flickered on and off, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Without any hesitation, I charged forward and chopped off the head of a zombie lagging behind with my tang knife. For these pain-insensitive, undead monsters, only destroying their brains could put them down for good. The head rolled on the ground. The 3 zombies ahead heard the noise and immediately turned and lunged at me. I dodged a zombie's embrace and stabbed another in the eye with my tang knife. That zombie instantly stopped moving and collapsed. I rolled on the ground to avoid the last zombie's attack and rushed to the end of the corridor, slamming the half-open iron gate of the stairwell shut. This way, the zombies from other floors couldn't get through. All I needed to do now was to eliminate the remaining 2 zombies to secure the whole floor. I gripped my tang knife, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. Oddly exhilarated, I knew behind the doors along the corridor, many eyes were silently watching me. It didn't matter. If they saw me, then I had achieved my goal. The last 2 zombies weren't hard to deal with. I pinned the final zombie against the door of the apartment opposite me, then pulled out my tang knife and chopped off its head. The blade was covered in zombie blood and flesh, and I stood there, catching my breath. It was extremely quiet around, with only the sound of zombies banging on the stairwell door. 2 minutes later, the door cautiously opened. A haggard-looking woman peered out. She was startled by the mess. You killed them all. People began to cautiously step out of their apartments. Gavin was the last to come out. I wiped the blood off my face and looked him in the eye. Gavin quickly averted his gaze, his eyes filled with horror. I glanced at Oscar and Aria standing behind him. They looked at me as if they had seen a ghost. Little girl, you've been killing people, Mrs. Moore exclaimed, slapping her thigh. I couldn't help but laugh. People, do you think they're still human? Everyone fell silent. I flicked the bits of flesh off my tang knife. They stepped aside. I smiled. I've cleared the monsters for you. A little compensation isn't too much to ask, right? I collected 1,000 from each family, but when I came to Gavin's, I changed my tune. Not from your family, you need to provide food. 6. Gavin's face twisted with anger as he asked me. Why? I casually cleaned my ears. Because I'm hungry. And there's no food left at home. Gavin glared fiercely at Arya and Oscar, then looked warily at the knife in my hand. He fetched 2 bags of instant noodles from the kitchen, and I, not being picky, took them and said, thanks. I went back home, I locked the door and headed straight for the bathroom, where I threw up until I was dizzy and disoriented. It was disgusting. My hand is still shaking from holding onto the toilet, although I'm pretty strong and have even helped the police catch criminals before. I've never chopped off someone's head. The impact was too much, and I needed time to recover. After emptying my stomach, I felt much better. Sitting on the cold floor, I began to think about what to do next while checking the items in my storage space. During the process, I accidentally clicked on the virtual shopping interface. Just as I was about to close it, I paused. The credit balance in the top right corner had changed. I had spent all my points to exchange for this space. But now it showed a balance of 40 points. An absurd thought crossed my mind. I asked the system, did I earn these points by killing those 4 zombies just now? System, congratulations, host, on achieving the small tryout milestone, you've earned 10 points for each of the 4. Suppressing the excitement in my heart, I asked, if I kill more zombies in the future, will I continue to earn points? System, yes, you can. I was a bit dazed, and it took me a while to regain my composure. I felt like I knew what I needed to do next. That same evening after I killed the zombies, Oscar and Arya were kicked out by Gavin. The zombies' corpses in the hallway were particularly frightening, and Arya stood there crying for a long time. Oscar was extremely patient in comforting her. You could say they really seemed like a pair of star-crossed lovers. Finally, a Mrs. Moore, unable to bear it any longer, took them in. On the 7th day of the apocalypse, the water supply was cut off. The number of zombies on the streets was increasing. I sat on the balcony, as usual, looking through my binoculars. Soon, my gaze fixed on a zombie in a police uniform. I was interested in the gun holstered at his waist. Buzz, buzz, my phone vibrated violently twice. Electricity and internet were still functioning, but I estimated that they wouldn't last much longer. In the owner's group chat of Building 18, someone tagged everyone, brothers and sisters, most residents are running low on food. To survive, we're organizing a team to look for supplies in the neighborhood supermarket. Those willing to join us, please send one and tag everyone. The message was sent by Tyler, a fitness coach who lived on the 8th floor. Although he didn't work at my gym, we were quite familiar with each other. The message had been out for a while with no responses. Looking at the police zombie wandering below, I typed a one on my phone screen. Seeing someone take the lead, others gradually joined in. By 7 o'clock that evening, 10 people had signed up. Tyler added us 10 to a new group chat. He went through tomorrow's plan in detail with us. Since most floors weren't cleared of zombies, the elevator was out of the question. He planned to lead us out through the windows, then into the residential garage to drive to the supermarket. The plan was standard, and I had no objections. Tyler typed a few more lines. Tomorrow we might need someone to drive another car to lure the zombies away from the supermarket. Any volunteers? We'll signal when we're done, and we'll cover you when you return. No one responded for a long time. It was clear to anyone that this task was the most dangerous. One wrong move could mean not coming back, but I felt this task was quite suitable for me. After all, I needed to go outside to get a gun, and moving in a group would be inconvenient. Thinking this, I didn't hesitate and typed another one in the chat. After sending it, the chat went silent for a moment. Tyler, Blair, you are a woman comrade. Would you really take on this task? Tasks like these are better left to the men, said Tyler. Do you look down on women? I asked. That's not what I meant, Tyler replied. That settles it then, no more dithering, I declared. The next morning, we climbed down from the balcony because the security bars made it not too difficult. We reached the agreed spot, and Tyler led us along the wall to the entrance of the underground parking lot. There weren't many zombies wandering in the parking lot, and Tyler and a few others quickly dealt with them. I drove my large Jeep at the front. The community supermarket was located outside the residential area. As I drove out, a few zombies sporadically followed. I parked the car right in front of the supermarket. Without stopping, I floored the accelerator and smashed through the glass doors. The dozen or so zombies inside, hearing the noise, all rushed towards us. I skillfully reversed the car and sped away. The zombies from the streets around the supermarket rushed out in a frenzy. After all the zombies from the supermarket were lured out, Tyler parked his large SUV sideways blocking the supermarket entrance. They got out on one side and safely entered the supermarket. I found the zombie in a police uniform at the entrance of a pharmacy. The zombies behind had already been shaken off. I parked at the pharmacy entrance. I got out of the car, pushed the door open, and walked in. 3 zombies inside roared and charged at me. Simultaneously, I raised my hand, and a tang sword instantly appeared in my grasp. Without hesitation, I swung my sword to chop them down. It might have been my imagination, but it felt like my physical strength had significantly increased. After obtaining the handgun, I threw it into my portable space. Before more zombies could gather, I drove back to the residential area from another direction. The car at the supermarket entrance was gone. I caught a glimpse of the mess inside. Many items had been taken. Not looking further, I drove directly into the residential area. Just as I drove in, the main gate was closed. I hit the brakes and turned to look. Tyler was instructing others to quickly lock the gate. He walked over to me. "How are you? Not hurt, right?" I shook my head and raised an eyebrow at him. "Plan on clearing all the zombies in the area too?" Tyler smiled. "Smart, aside from those locked in the residential buildings. There weren't many zombies wandering in the area while we were talking. A group of zombies emerged from behind the residential buildings and swiftly ran towards us. Some in the group, who had never killed zombies before, unconsciously stepped back. Tyler, with a grim expression, held a watermelon knife in his hand. "Step aside," I whispered. Tyler, puzzled, stepped aside. I floored the accelerator, and the car shot forward, charging directly into the group of zombies. The leading 7 or 8 zombies were knocked flying, limbs scattering. They hadn't completely died as they fell to the ground. Those with quicker reflexes had already moved forward to finish them off. Some zombies that weren't hit became enraged and surrounded me. I pushed open the car door, blocked a zombie, and then, holding the tang sword, joined the fight. By noon, all the wandering zombies in the residential area had been thoroughly cleared. Out of the 10-person squad, only 7 remained. Tyler sat down on the ground, somewhat drained. I walked up to him and handed him a bottle of water. Tyler looked up at me, his expression complex. "Thanks." We rested there for a while, just about to check the supplies in the car when we heard rustling noises from the dormitory buildings on both sides. Many people opened their windows and looked out. "Mrs. Moore from the 4th floor of Building 18 shouted, 'Don't go back on your word about sharing with us.'" Tyler frowned, clearly a bit annoyed. "I've said I'll share, and I will," he stated firmly. As soon as he finished speaking, some residents had already opened their security windows and climbed down. They rushed towards the small truck loaded with supplies and began looting. Despite Tyler and his group's attempts to stop them, residents from other buildings could no longer hold themselves back. They climbed down from their balconies, joining the frenzied mob scrambling for supplies. Tyler and his friends were pushed to the outskirts of the crowd. Someone couldn't hold back their anger and cursed loudly. "Damn it, do you have no shame? We risked our lives to find these supplies. Stop stealing." But in such chaos, no one listened. And no one could be stopped. It was as if they were possessed, frantically looting everything. Tyler and his group trembled with rage. I watched for a while, then climbed into my Jeep. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A sudden burst of engine noise filled the air. The looters paused their frantic grabbing. They turned their heads in terror and dispersed in an instant. "What are you trying to do?" I stuck my head out the window and smiled at them. "I just didn't get enough fun ramming zombies earlier, and now, I see a bunch of beasts that aren't human." The subtext was clear. "Anyone who moves, I'll run over you." They looked at each other, not daring to move again. After a few more minutes of consideration, they quickly dispersed, clutching the supplies they had managed to grab. The pickup truck was almost empty, with noodles torn open and scattered on the ground. It was a disheartening sight. Tyler silently distributed the remaining supplies among his friends, then he brought a portion to my car. "Blair, this is yours." I looked at the 5 bags of instant noodles, a loaf of bread, and 3 bottles of milk he offered but didn't take them. Tyler looked at me, and I gestured for him to unload the stuff from my trunk. It was several boxes of self-heating hot pots and cases of cookies and mineral water. Tyler looked at me in shock. "You," I casually said. "I came across a convenience store on the way back and grabbed some stuff." I indeed stumbled upon the store and luckily found its warehouse. Most of the supplies had been stowed in my storage space, and what I brought out was just a fraction of it. The boys gathered around, excited yet uneasy. They had bravely followed Tyler out, risking danger because their homes were nearly at their breaking point. you guys split it. As soon as I said this, they looked at each other, hesitant to move. This doesn't seem right. Tyler's face turned red. We already put you at risk by making you lure the zombies. We can't take the supplies you worked hard to find. I scoffed and motioned for them to look up behind the anti-theft bars. Through the curtains, many eyes were watching us. I don't think I can bring all these supplies home intact. Rather than letting them benefit, you guys should take it. I tapped on the supplies. There's not much. Hurry up and divide it. They looked at each other again, and this time, without hesitation, they opened the boxes and started distributing the supplies. Blair, thank you. If you ever need help in the future, just ask. I nodded slightly, took my share, and drove away. Tyler and I organized several more teams to go out and search for supplies. Sometimes we searched unoccupied homes, sometimes places outside the community, but these times, we didn't share with those who only wanted to reap the benefits without contributing. Some didn't believe it and even tried to steal. Tyler cut off his arm with a single strike. His entire demeanor was murderous. Who dares to move? Now, if the residents in the community want supplies, they must join us in taking risks, or they have to figure it out themselves. But with so many survivors, there are always those with ulterior motives. On the 25th day of the apocalypse, I saw someone break into the apartment across from mine. They beat people, stole things, and dragged the young and beautiful woman of the house into a room. The precarious order was shattered, and the darker side of human nature was fully unleashed. Now, what's scarier than the zombies? Humanity itself is the source of these troubles. Due to their wariness of Tyler and me, our building had remained relatively peaceful until now. However, those people knew that our building probably had the richest supplies. On the 30th day of this apocalypse, their greed overcame their fear. They snuck into our building under the cover of night. I hadn't been sleeping. Instead, I sat on the living room sofa, listening to the noises outside. They crept up, floor by floor. Soon, I heard noises coming from next door. They were frantically smashing the door, and someone loudly said, "Boss, I saw last time. There's a woman here who is stunning. Her man just went out with Tyler yesterday. There should be plenty of supplies at home." They were talking about Oscar and Aria. Oscar did indeed go out with Tyler a few times, mostly driving, and then sharing some supplies to barely meet daily needs. It was just that Aria's beauty was too striking. A few days ago, she mentioned wanting to exercise, which was fine, but for some reason, maybe she wasn't thinking straight. She wore a tight outfit and did aerobics on the balcony. I watched and felt like giving her a thumbs up. She was truly an oddball. If trouble didn't find her, it would be a disservice to her efforts. The door next door didn't stand a chance against their relentless bashing and soon gave way. They kicked in the door and barged in. Aria screamed, and Oscar cursed, telling them to get out. The noise next door was so loud that the whole building could hear it. But no one came out to interfere. In these times, just keeping oneself safe was already difficult. Aria, crying, rushed out from next door, and the group of men leisurely followed her as if playing cat and mouse. Aria pounded on the doors of neighbors on the same floor, pleading, "Help, please let me in." She knocked on several doors, but no one opened. Finally, she knocked on my door. "Blair, help me, I'm sorry, please help me." Her words were disjointed, and she was on the verge of breaking down. Oscar, covered in blood, stumbled out too. He stood in front of Aria, barely able to keep himself upright. Seeing them in such a pitiful state, I should have felt satisfied, yet, for some reason, I felt nothing inside. Aria leaned against my door, holding a kitchen knife. "Don't come any closer." The men paused for a moment, then burst into laughter. "Look, she's got a knife. Sweetheart, ever killed a chicken before?" "Never killed a chicken, and you think you can kill a person?" The burly leader reached out and snatched the knife from her hand. Then he reached out to grab her. That's when I opened the door. Aria fell into the room, looking up at me in surprise. "Blair." The men looked at me, their faces filled with apprehension. The leader smiled. "Blair, we know you're tough. We won't enter your place. But leave this woman out of it." Hearing this, Aria clung to my legs. "Blair, please save me." I took a deep breath and looked at the group sternly. "Get lost. If you know I'm tough, then you should know you have no business on this floor." It wasn't out of a sense of heroism that I decided to help Aria. After all, any sense of compassion had long been erased by the system. I simply thought that in an apocalypse, love and affection were trivial and worthless. Besides, if these people had the audacity to cause trouble next door today, Who's to say they wouldn't target my supplies tomorrow? The leader's face changed instantly at my words. Blair, don't push your luck. 11. No one saw who made the first move. By the time everyone reacted, we were already fighting. The more zombies I killed during this period, the stronger my physical abilities became. I knocked them down one by one, but accidentally got kicked by the leader, losing the Tang sword from my hand. Staggering to his feet, he taunted, "You're only tough because of that knife. Let's see how tough you are without it." With that, he charged at me with a kitchen knife. I remained calm, ducked under his erratic attack, and kicked him in the leg. The man fell to his knees, too pained to speak. I pulled out a gun from behind my waist. I pressed it directly against the man's head. "You lost." The man froze, dropping the kitchen knife. "Blair, let's talk. Just put the gun down first." I didn't respond, nor did I move. Sweat broke out on the man's forehead as he looked up at me, pleading, yet a vicious flash crossed his eyes. He suddenly attempted to grab the gun from my hand. I dodged his grasp, and he picked up the knife from the ground and stabbed it towards my waist. I kicked the knife away and emotionlessly pulled the trigger aimed at his head. A deafening gunshot echoed. The man fell motionless, collapsing to the ground. Blood splattered all over me, followed by Aria's heart-wrenching scream. Ah! On the 30th day of the apocalypse, I had killed 45 zombies and one living person. It's not that I felt numb, but something inside me had changed. Congratulations, host, for achieving the new milestone. Heart of Stone, reward, 100 points. I blinked, and when I finally processed the message from the system in my mind, I couldn't help but laugh. System, so this is the real punishment. From the initial point exchanges to now rewarding killing, you've led me step by step to discard my humanity and become a killing machine. What exactly do you want? The system's voice, mechanical and cold, sounded particularly eerie in the night. Host, your question is beyond my capacity to answer. I scoffed, didn't speak further, and got up to wash off the dirt from my body with cold water. Lying in bed, both physical and mental exhaustion overwhelmed me, and I could no longer hold on. Closing my eyes and falling into darkness, I don't know how long I slept in a daze. All I knew was that I was awakened by a jarring knock on the door. Zombies in the hallway. I abruptly sat up, my head instantly cleared. I grabbed the Tang sword beside my bed and approached the door, peering through the peephole, only to find a group of people outside, not zombies, but living people. The sharp-faced Mrs. Moore, along with others, relentlessly banged on my door. Tyler was there too, standing right at my doorstep. "What exactly do you want?" Mrs. Moore shouted. "Everyone saw her kill my son last night. A living, breathing person. My son went out to find food last night and never came back. I need the murderer to pay for her crime." Mrs. Moore was both crying and cursing, visibly agitated. Others chimed in. "Yeah, she kills without blinking an eye, and she has a gun. She must be an antisocial element." Tyler didn't even get a chance to speak before being labeled an accomplice, becoming immediately both anxious and angry. "Watch your words. She led us to find supplies and kill zombies. Without her, would you still be alive and well? Have some conscience." The crowd fell silent for a moment. Someone whispered, "Come on. We found the supplies ourselves. What does she have to do with it?" Tyler was almost amused by the absurdity. "When have we not been at the forefront clearing zombies during supply runs? You just follow behind and fill your bags, thinking you're something special." He stopped talking and hung his head low. I pulled the door open and leaned against the doorframe, watching them. They stepped back subconsciously upon seeing the Tang knife in my hands. Mrs. Moore glared at me fiercely. "It was you who killed my son." It was only when I got closer that I recognized her. Wasn't Mrs. Moore the leader of the first raid for supplies? Like they say, birds of a feather flock together. I looked up at her. "Yes, I killed your son. What are you going to do about it?" She probably didn't expect me to admit it so boldly, and for a moment, she was at a loss for words. I continued, "Want to avenge him? Come on then. Kill me if you can." Provoked by my words, Mrs. Moore rushed forward and slapped me. Tyler didn't manage to stop her, and he looked at me, somewhat taken aback. "Blair." My head turned slightly from the impact, and I tasted a hint of blood in my mouth. Mrs. Moore had quite a slap. I touched my cheek, turning my face back to her. "Are you done? Now it's my turn." The next second, I held the Tang knife to her throat. The sharp blade immediately drew a line of blood across her neck. "How about I reunite you with your son?" Tyler grabbed my wrist. "Blair, calm down." Mrs. Moore, terrified, turned pale and froze on the spot. Everyone around inhaled sharply, too afraid to make a sound, seeing Tyler holding me back. Mrs. Moore screamed and quickly backed away, then ran off without looking back. The onlookers dispersed just as quickly. I lowered the tang knife and gestured dismissively at their retreating figures. These are the people we're risking our lives to protect. Is it worth it? Tyler remained silent. I walked into the house, signaling him to follow. I'm leaving first thing tomorrow morning. Tyler was stunned. Where to? I walked to the balcony and yanked the curtains open, looking out into the pitch-black night. My thoughts clearer than they had ever been. I'm going to create my own utopia. Day 31 of the apocalypse. 5:00 a.m. The sky was just beginning to lighten as I drove my Jeep away from the Sunnyvale complex, heading south. Tyler didn't come with me. He decided to stay. I filled my portable space completely and left the remaining supplies in the storage room for him, stopping occasionally along the way. With my current skills, as long as I avoided a horde of zombies, I was likely safe. On my way south, I encountered a group of zombies in military uniforms. Naturally, I replenished my arsenal and then switched to a military armored vehicle. Sitting in the vehicle, I was checking the equipment when a chilling sensation suddenly overwhelmed me. I leaned sideways just as a gunshot rang out from a rooftop. The bullet pierced the head of a zombie sneaking up behind me. Breathing a sigh of relief, I looked up to see a man in military uniform standing with a sniper rifle, looking down at me. That's my vehicle, he said. Day 53 of the apocalypse. I met someone. He was a soldier, the sole survivor of a rescue army. His name was Jackson, and now, he was my teammate. Don't go south anymore, he said, biting into a piece of bread, his deep gaze fixed ahead. The south has completely fallen. I asked him, then where to? Jackson replied, let's head north. I heard they've set up a temporary base there. I nodded. Then north it is. Jackson looked at me. You trust me that quickly? I pointed at his uniform. I trust this uniform of yours. Jackson was momentarily stunned, then couldn't help but chuckle softly. Honestly, he was a pretty good teammate, skilled and strong, with impressive sniping abilities. Most importantly, like me, he was self-centered. Ever since we teamed up, all our missions were carried out with our own safety as the priority, although there were times when he would leave me behind, or I would betray him, but we were both lucky, always managing to escape danger. After reuniting, we'd have a fight, but by the next morning, we would hit the road together as if nothing had happened. Most of the time, Jackson and I got along quite well. For instance, at this moment, our military armored vehicle was abruptly intercepted by a group. Looking ahead at the temporary base that used to be a large factory, I turned to Jackson and asked, this is the temporary base you mentioned? Jackson shrugged. It should be. I took a good look and commented, looks pretty good. Jackson nodded. Indeed, but there's one issue. I turned to him. He tugged at the corner of his mouth. It seems like the people here aren't exactly welcoming. As he spoke, we were dragged out of the vehicle. Two fierce-looking masked men pushed us into the base. They said they were taking us to meet the leader here. Walking deep into the base, we stopped outside a luxurious office. A man frisked Jackson, then removed a dagger tucked at his waist. Another man gave me a menacing look and took a few steps towards me. My expression darkened. Hey, Jackson intervened. You can be rough with me, but this is a lady, and, Jackson tilted his chin towards me, this lady has a bit of a temper. After a few seconds of eye contact, the man frowned and halted. He summoned a woman to search me. After confirming we weren't a threat, they pushed us into the office. In the middle of the office was a luxurious red sofa. A man sprawled casually on it, a cigar pinched between his fingers, flanked by two military dressed guards. He glanced at us and smiled. Welcome to Dawn Base. He stood and approached us. You can stay here for now. Take your time to think about your next move. Before the apocalypse, I was Major General Kai of the 141 Military District in Kyoto. Now, I'm the leader of this base. You can trust me. This place offers you shelter. Seeing that we remained silent, he didn't mind and had someone pour us 2 glasses of water. It's been a long journey. You must be tired. Have some water to refresh yourselves. Holding the glass, I turned to Jackson. Do you believe what he's saying? Jackson pondered for a few seconds and admitted, I don't. I replied, funny, neither do I. Kai. I turned to Kai, who was visibly confused, smiled, and then threw the water in his face. The 2 guards immediately raised their guns. Jackson stepped forward, flipped over the sofa, and kicked the gun out of one guard's hand. I magically produced a gun from thin air, knocked down Kai trying to flee to the door, and pressed the gun against his forehead. Move again, and I'll shoot you. Sweat beaded on Kai's forehead as he hadn't anticipated this turn of events. After Jackson knocked out the two guards, he came over, he patted Kai on the head. You, of all people, why impersonate Kai? I was taken aback. Is Kai famous? Jackson replied. Not really. Kai is my cousin. Me, the fake. Kai also fell silent. I tapped his head. Speak up. Who are you really? The man's name is Leo, who used to work at this chemical plant. After the outbreak of the zombie virus, the owner of the chemical plant fled. Leo, who was quite bold, took the initiative to lead the people to clear out all the zombies in the plant. They then hunkered down in the plant for over half a month, surviving on the inventory of supplies they had. Eventually, supplies ran low, and Leo led the group into the city to scavenge for food. During their search, they unexpectedly encountered a squad of soldiers who had been killed by zombies. Leo devised a dubious plan. He stripped the soldiers of their uniforms, confiscated their weapons, and claimed them as his own. Then, he disguised his own group as soldiers to gain the trust of passers-by and took the opportunity to rob them of their supplies. In some ways, Leo was quite a talent. Now he was trembling. Folks, what exactly are you planning to do? Jackson shrugged. Ask her. I smiled lightly. Nothing much. Leo sighed in relief. That's good. Me, it's just that your base here looks pretty solid. How about you hand it over to me? What? He looked at me in horror. You're robbing me? I nodded. Yeah, did you just figure that out? On the 84th day of the apocalypse, Jackson and I settled in a chemical plant on the northern outskirts. We transformed it into a new, genuine base. I even took on a new subordinate named Leo. He was somewhat clever and strategic, and easy to control. Jackson, who was rather indifferent about leading, preferred to lead the team out to gather supplies, which he found endlessly enjoyable. I once asked him, your cousin died, aren't you sad? Jackson forced a smile. Did I ever say we were close? Me, well, in some ways, he and I were quite alike. By the 98th day of the apocalypse, the base was running smoothly. I had the perimeter wall expanded threefold. We built several temporary houses and developed a few vegetable gardens. Jackson found a rich variety of supplies and seeds outside. More and more people came to join us. On the 136th day of the apocalypse, several violent brawls broke out at the base. Someone dissatisfied with the distribution of supplies killed a guard. Jackson's method of dealing with the situation was simple and brutal. He broke the man's arm and threw him out of the base. His method of using violence to control violence proved quite effective, and the base remained stable for a long time. But I learned to combine kindness with severity. If Jackson wanted to play the good cop, so be it. I was ready to play the bad cop. Those who performed well in the base were rewarded accordingly, sometimes with supplies, sometimes with housing. It was very fair. Over time, the people at the base began to recognize that the real power lay with Jackson, simply because he was strong, had high combat skills, and was the toughest. As for me, I was just seen as his secretary. On the 159th day of the apocalypse, Jackson took a large group of his trusted followers to a neighboring city to look for supplies. That very night, some people with ill intentions sneaked into the supply depot. They tied up the guards and broke into the supply depot. Damn, I've always disliked that Jackson. Yeah, I accidentally took an extra pack of cigarettes while scavenging a while back, and he cursed me out. Let's grab more supplies today and leave under the cover of darkness. No need to stay here and take this humiliation. Some were still hesitant, but Blair is still at the base. She's nothing without Jackson backing her up. What power would she have? Laughing derisively, one of them said, she's just a woman, that's all the skill she has to serve men. I was very annoyed by that remark, extremely annoyed. I shone my flashlight in that person's face, causing him to squint abruptly. Who's there? I leaped down from the top, holding a katana. I stood before them. To be honest, it's been a long time since I've killed anyone. 16, I still didn't kill them. Ever since I started to deliberately avoid being manipulated by the system, I basically stopped killing. I also stopped using points from the system to exchange for items, as that would only increase my greed. Once the desire for more sets in, I might resort to any means necessary to gain points. Killing might just be the beginning. I broke their legs and threw them into a basement at the base. On day 200 of the apocalypse, Jackson returned with a large supply of goods. He went to the basement to check on them and couldn't help but click his tongue. Why did you guys have to provoke her? Didn't I tell you, that woman has a bad temper? The pitiful few exchanged glances and shook their heads almost in tears. Jackson was taken aback. That was my oversight. Sorry, are you going out again? If you do, you'd better stay honest, or if Blair gets angry and decides to kill, I won't be able to stop her. You really can't mess with the King of Hell. Tears streaming down their faces, they nodded in agreement. It was much later that I learned who had started calling me the King of Hell, at the end of the first year of the apocalypse. We celebrated our first spring festival at the base. Jackson somehow found 2 large red lanterns and hung them from the ceiling of the hall. He lit 2 candles, creating quite an atmosphere. Though the dinner table lacked exotic delicacies, there was plenty of fish and meat. The pollution-free vegetables from the base's garden were just enough for us to be self-sufficient. Everything seemed to be moving in a positive direction. Leo, holding his glass, frequently toasted to me, crying and drinking. Towards the end, he could hardly speak clearly. He just shouted hoarsely, "Blair, you are my god, you are my god." I felt embarrassed and quickly waved my hand. "Take him away, he's making a scene." People laughed and carried Leo away. Looking at the joyous crowd beneath the table, I couldn't help but smile. Jackson raised his glass to me. "Here's to Blair." I glared at him, but still extended my glass. Since the apocalypse began, I've been on edge for far too long now. At last, I could relax for a bit. "Blair, Jackson, there's a car coming from 3 kilometers south." Someone rushed in from outside. "Me?" Jackson glanced at me. "Go ahead and curse if you want." I stood on the high wall with binoculars looking in that direction. An SUV was driving towards us, followed by a bus. I blinked, surprised by the odd combination. A group of zombies trailed behind them. Someone called out to me, "Blair, should we open the gate?" "No rush." I lifted the binoculars again. "Let's wait and see." The vehicle approached closer to our base, until it was about 400 meters away. Jackson fired a sniper rifle as a warning. The SUV stopped, and the driver got out, waving his hands vigorously towards us. In the dim moonlight, I recognized his face. 17. I never thought I'd see Tyler again under these circumstances. Seeing my nod, the people below opened the base gates. Tyler was relieved, seemingly surprised that he was allowed to enter so smoothly. He led the bus into the base. The gates closed, keeping the zombies and their terrifying howls outside. Tyler got off the bus, his legs weak. He didn't care about anything else and quickly thanked those who opened the gate. That person pointed towards me. "Our boss let you in." Tyler followed his pointing hand and looked up at me standing on the high wall. When our eyes met, Tyler froze, as if he couldn't quite believe it was me. I gave him a smile. "Long time no see. Welcome to my utopia." Tyler didn't speak for a long time, but then someone else got out of the passenger side of the off-road vehicle. A woman. She looked up at me, her tone filled with astonishment. "Blair." Seeing Arya, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Honestly, I thought she was long dead, but apparently, she's been quite lucky. I jumped down from 10 meters high, landing steadily in front of them. It was only up close that I noticed Arya's face was disfigured. A long scar ran across the left side of her face, clinging like a centipede. Noticing my gaze, Arya didn't shy away. She gave me a bitter smile. "Pretty ugly, huh?" I nodded, a bit. The conversation dragged on, but Arya didn't seem to mind. Then the doors of the bus behind us opened, and the people inside came down looking somewhat panicked. Men and women, young and old. They seemed weak but not seriously injured. They looked around and then noticed the food on the lobby table. Before Tyler could stop them, they rushed over and began to eat voraciously. Tyler's face turned red instantly. "Our food ran out 3 days ago, and we've had a lot of troubles coming from the south. Everyone is starving now." I turned my face back emotionlessly to Tyler and Arya. "Aren't you hungry?" Tyler paused. I gestured towards the food. "Go eat first, have a good rest tonight, and come find me in the morning. Then, we'll have a good talk." 18. From Tyler's description, I roughly understood how they had survived the past year. The large group had dwindled to just over 20 people, but Tyler had done his best. I asked him, "What are your plans? Continue heading north, or stay here?" Tyler seemed a bit distracted, embarrassedly lowering his head. "With so many of us," I laughed. "Did you think we'd let you freeload? Here, you follow my rules, work for what you get, no exceptions." Hearing this, Tyler visibly relaxed. He stood up somewhat awkwardly. Of course. I'll go discuss it with everyone first." I nodded. After Tyler left, the large room was left with just me and Arya. She sat there quietly, not speaking. I broke the silence. "How did Oscar die?" Arya paused. her expression momentarily sorrowful before quickly returning to normal. 6 months ago, we went out with Tyler to find supplies. Oscar was bitten by a zombie while saving me. I killed him myself. I then pointed to her face. And what happened here? Arya touched her face. Without Oscar's protection, my face would have caused me trouble. To prevent future problems, I disfigured it myself. I looked at her somewhat surprised. You're quite harsh on yourself. Arya just smiled and said no more. In a year, she had changed a lot. She had become more profound and reserved. Previously, her little thoughts were almost written on her face, but now, I can't quite see through what she's thinking anymore. Arya looked at me, slightly lost in thought. She caught me off guard with a question. Blair, have you ever thought that our world is somewhat abnormal? I was taken aback, raising my head to look at her, tentatively asking, what do you mean? Arya frowned. It's hard to explain. I was raised in luxury by my parents, receiving the highest education. Breaking up with Oscar and going abroad to study was a decision I never regretted. But isn't it strange? She looked at me. Such a proud person like me returned to the country on the day Oscar got married and even ruined your wedding. I often wonder, why did I come back? I suppressed the shock in my heart. Have you figured it out? Arya lowered her eyes and shook her head. No, it's like a train that was running normally and suddenly got its direction forcibly changed by an invisible hand. I feel panic about this unknown. After Arya left, I leaned back on the sofa. System, I hadn't called it for a long time. Is this what you call a character awakening to self-awareness? Are you going to take some special measures to forcibly erase it again? The system's voice was as annoying as ever. Host, your question exceeds my authority to answer. I smirked and said no more. On the 403rd day of the apocalypse, a massive horde of zombies launched a swift and fierce attack on the base. Blair, look, they're attacking like mad. If they don't stop soon, the main gate won't hold. Jackson came over with explosives. I'll lead them away. There's an abandoned bridge to the west. If we can draw them onto the bridge and detonate the explosives, we can wipe them out all at once. I grabbed his arm. Just you. He looked back. And a group of volunteers ready to risk their lives. I followed his gaze. Tyler waved at me, and I saw Arya sitting in the passenger seat. She smiled at me. I think I roughly understood where this bizarre zombie horde came from. System, good job. To correct one mistake you need so many people to be buried with it. Maybe you've scripted some disgusting plot for me in this apocalypse, but I'm inherently rebellious and never like being arranged by others. I looked at Jackson, and in his astonished gaze, I directly jumped onto his armored vehicle. Let's go together. I took out the long-unused katana, its gleaming blade reflecting my face, familiar, yet somewhat strange. System, how about we make a bet? After a long static noise, the system finally responded. Bet on what? Bet on whether we can make it back alive. I remember the sunset that day was beautiful. Jackson drove the armored vehicle out of another exit of the base, quickly followed by several other vehicles. The spinning wheels kicked up layers of dust. We raced towards the west, facing the sunset. The zombies gathered at the base gate stopped their movement, listening to the intermittent horn sounds, and involuntarily turned their heads. They saw us. They rushed towards us. We drove, leading the zombie horde in a wild chase. Jackson was so excited he almost shouted. I turned to look at him. So excited. Jackson nodded. Yes, excited because we might not come back this time. Me, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Tyler, carrying Arya closely behind, Leo, with the people of the base, stood on the high wall continuously waving at me. That moment, I couldn't quite explain my feelings. Exhilarating, yet somewhat reassuring despite being followed by a horde of man-eating zombies, despite still being on the road. But I believe dawn is finally breaking in the apocalypse. Epilogue, the bet I made with the system. In the end, I won. I wanted to show off in front of the system, but I realized that the very palpable presence in my mind had vanished. The system arrived quietly and left just as silently. This discovery left me feeling exhilarated yet somewhat bewildered. With the system gone, my personal storage space also disappeared. Fortunately, my physical strength has not faded. On day 410 of the apocalypse, I gained true freedom. Indiana a daze. I heard someone calling me. Blair, come over here. What's up? Just listen. After more than a year, we heard a broadcast again. The voice of the elegant and official female announcer sounded like music from heaven. Dear survivors, hello. The Country is currently experiencing an unprecedented catastrophe. Virus experts have developed an antibody against these undying monsters, and the experiments have been hugely successful. Production of the antibodies has started. Please ensure your own safety and patiently await national rescue. Finally, thank you all once again for your perseverance.